Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We are live. It is Thursday, October 16th, and we are back. Dude, it is basically, it's not basically November, but it is getting pretty damn close to November, dude. Like this end of year stuff is moving pretty quick. We are more than halfway done of October. And once October is done, we got 2 months left of the year, and then we are done for 2025. So kind of crazy how fast the world is moving, but the markets are moving faster. We got a lot of stuff to talk about in regard to the markets. You're getting old at rapid speeds. Yes, exactly. 10 more days. No, less than 10 days until your boy turns 28 years old. So we got the birthday coming up as well. Miss Lawfi, good morning to you. Julie, June, what's up? Tiago, what's up? Byron, Megan, thank you everybody for being here. TSM earnings, big one. First big semiconductor earnings. We got to talk about that. It is one that, quite frankly, continued to make the case for why this market cycle around AI is not going anywhere. I mean, it's a pretty just mind-blowing number. So we're going to start off with TSM earnings, talk about that, talk about the implications of that. For those that are in Amcor, TSM earnings are actually really bullish for Amcor. Amcor is up 6% in the pre-markets. They said some really good stuff about their Arizona fab. Amcor does a lot of business with the onshoring of manufacturing semiconductors inside of the United States, particularly in Arizona. In fact, Amcor's headquarters is literally across from the TSM fab in Arizona. So that stock is up as well. NVIDIA's up. AMD is slightly red after AMD was up 10% yesterday. S&P's up about 0.5%. But all the semiconductor names are benefiting off the just unbelievable amounts of demand that TSM showed off this morning. And so we'll talk about that. Charles Schwab, they crushed it on their earnings. We'll get into that. United Airlines yesterday said they are guiding for their best operating income in company history for Q4. I mean, we talk about the consumer not necessarily being the best. JP Morgan and Citibank said delinquency rates are actually lower than expected when you look at the transcripts of their earnings calls. Then United says travel's at an all-time high, and we're going to give the best quarter that we've ever given as a public company in Q4. I mean, this earnings season, it's only 5 days old, but it has started to accumulate into making me think that we are going to have a pretty strong earnings throughout the rest of Q3. And if we do, I think this market hopefully will be able to maintain its momentum, and we can potentially expand that multiple as we get into the end of the year. So we got a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. Again, good morning, everybody. Palantir and Snowflake did partner this morning. This partnership, I think, was inevitable. Palantir has been partnering with a lot of their competitors in the space, including Databricks, Salesforce, et cetera. And the interoperability of Palantir software is kind of the reason why I think this partnership makes sense. So we'll talk about that. But it's been 4 years in the making. Palantir and Snowflake finally did a partnership this morning, and we'll get into that and keep going from there as well. All right, let's get started. Friday. No, it's not Friday. It's Thursday. We got one more day till Friday. Dude, one thing that I will say is that the weather in New Jersey in particular, and maybe this is similar to everyone on the East Coast, it's changing rapidly. Like I went from blasting the AC last week to blasting the heater, and it is, I don't know, it's making me feel, it's just, when the weather changes that quickly, it's kind of weird, the feeling. If anyone else is feeling that, let me know. But yeah, the weather has changed kind of overnight. Now, it's not necessarily freezing in Jersey anymore, but it's getting to the point where one day you're going to step outside on the East Coast and it's going to hit you like a brick. It is going to be freaking cold. We're not there yet, but I think in like a week or two, we'll be there. But the fact that I have the heater on in the apartment now, it's like obviously starting to change the weather right here. Same in California, same in Connecticut. Yeah, only in certain parts of the country doesn't feel like that yet. Uzi says we're close. Dude, we're close. Northeast folks know how that cold feels once it hits you, because you get the beauty of all 4 seasons, but once the cold hits you, the cold hits you. All right, let's get started. TSM. So what did they say? What did they do? Well, it was pretty freaking bullish. If you're up at 1 a.m. Eastern last night, that's when the earnings came out for TSM. And the earnings were pretty incredible. So revenue, 33.1 versus 31.5. That is a $2 billion beat. EPS, 292 versus 259. That is a 30-cent beat or a 40-cent beat on EPS. They're guiding for 32 to 33.4 billion. The estimate was 32. They usually get on the high end of the guide, which means they're going to beat by about 1.4 billion. Now, take a look at these stats. North American customers accounted for 76% of total revenue. Operating and gross margins were both up 2 to 3% year over year. Again, for a hardware company to increase those operating margins, that's very important. And their CapEx is on a consistent pace quarter over quarter. The other part about this that was very important is that Taiwan Semi is planning on acquiring a second major site in Arizona to accelerate capacity expansion, aka the United States wants wants TSM to continue working in the United States and building fabs in the United States. That's bullish for Amkor. That's potentially bullish for Intel. Bullish for a lot of companies that are in the supply chain working with TSM in that fab in Arizona. And the fact that they want to make a second one is also very bullish. And then here was the biggest stat that to me just blew my mind. High performance AI chips, aka GPUs, accounted for 57% of TSM's revenue this quarter, nearly double that of smartphones at 30%. I mean, basically the GPU revolution is turning TSM into a monster. This company is up about, now TSM was up a lot this week, so that's why the stock's not going crazy. It's up about 2.3% right here. All-time highs, yeah, it's basically at all-time highs. It's basically at all-time highs in the pre-market. So up 2.3%. I mean, you would think the stock would be up like 8-10% on this, but it's been up a lot for the past month. But the fact that GPUs are actually starting to contribute the most to their revenue over smartphones, which historically has been the majority of the revenue in terms of chip production sales, because Apple sells billions of those phones, is quite incredible. And I think the takeaway for this for investors, if you're in NVIDIA, you're in a Micron, you're in SMCI, you're in an AMD, is that this thing is not stopping. This is a very good gauge of demand in the context of NVIDIA's earnings, which we'll be getting in a month. And for every semiconductor that has earnings, they are going to be tied in some way to overall chip demand. And what you're seeing from TSM is that chip demand is not really slowing down. Here's a 3Q 2025 revenue by technology chart to kind of show exactly how it's going. At those 5-nanometer chips, 37%. And again, they just continue to execute on the innovation that is necessary to make these chips actually happen in the real world. So really nice to see. I mean, for anyone who holds semiconductor stocks or is broadly part of the AI trade, which means honestly, if you own any of the Mag 7, you're part of the AI trade, you needed TSM to have good earnings, and they crushed it. They absolutely crushed it. Awesome to see. TSM right there up 2.29%. Let me know in the chat if you own TSM at all. If you're buying here, I mean, if you're buying into strength, if you're selling, if you have any calls on it, puts. I do not own this one. I am very curious about the company. I wouldn't, mind doing a deep dive on this one and going a little bit further to understand it. But yeah, TSM, absolutely massive winner. Wow, a decent amount of you own it. Decent amount of you own it. TSM Arizona is up and running. It's not fully operational, but it is up and running and it is starting to produce chips. And the fact that they want to acquire a second site in Arizona to be able to continue building fabs just shows that the progress they've had with the first one already is starting to show some good momentum for them. All right, decent amount of people right here owning TSM. And then obviously Amkor right here is getting the benefit of that 33.21. That's up 6%. Again, they work very closely with TSM. So any good results for TSM should signal demand for Amkor as well. Okay, so that's what we got with TSM. Let's talk about Salesforce for a little bit because this stock is actually up 6.3%. So Salesforce has been not moving for the majority of the year. It's still down about 25% even after this 6% bump for the year. So why is this stock finally starting to move? Well, Salesforce had their Dreamforce conference yesterday. Dreamforce is this annual conference they do in San Francisco, and it's this massive event where I think it's like 100,000 people attend. And basically Benioff guided for $60 billion in revenue by the end of fiscal year 2030. The average CAGR on revenue was about 8%. This gets you to about 9.5%. So it is much more than what people thought, which is a good thing. And so that $60 billion increase in revenue, or that $60 billion overall increase for what they're going to be doing by 2030 was a surprise to Wall Street. So that's one reason why the stock went up. And then Benioff said, hey, we are going to get to a rule of 50 by the end of 2030. Now, again, rule of 50 is, exciting, given rule of 40 is kind of the industry standard when it comes to SaaS companies. You got other names like a PLTR that are at rules of 80s. So, I mean, that is bullish that they're going to get to a 50 by fiscal year 2030. But I think the 60 billion target is what matters the most. Look, is it the most exciting in the world? No, but given these metrics and these updated metrics in terms of revenue CAGR and their operating margin increases to the rule of 50 by 2030, is it undervalued? Yes. I mean, Salesforce is undervalued. It's hard to deny Salesforce is undervalued. It's just, is there an opportunity cost to putting your money here a la PayPal and, not really contributing to some of the other names that don't have narratives associated with them? So Salesforce right there, 251, up 6.2%. Do I think this is going to be the most important AI name over the next decade? Not really. But for those that were in this name and that needed some level of excitement, Benioff tried to deliver it yesterday. On top of that, Google partnered with Salesforce today as well. Gemini and Salesforce launched the partnership. So obviously Salesforce is trying to get in with all the other LLMs and make sure that these partnerships can make sense. CRM and Google expanded their partnership to integrate Gemini AI into Agentforce 360. The update links Salesforce apps with Google's Workspace, a service cloud plus Google Telephony Contract Center launches in fiscal year 26, followed by deeper BigQuery Data 360 integration in the second half of 26. So look, if you got Salesforce, this is bullish news to see. Do you use this as an exit opportunity? I mean, again, I think it's cheap. So if you've held on for so long, you probably just continue to hold on, but it really just depends if the company could surprise the market with further growth. Now, you've got tons of price targets out the wazoo saying, hey, this thing deserves to be at 300, which it probably does. But ultimately, the question is going to be if it actually gets there. 250.90 is what you got on Salesforce. And that stock is green in the pre-market based on those new projections. SoFi right there, that's up 28.28. That's up 1%. Oh, Noda was on Mad Money last night, and he was definitely taking some shots at Robinhood. He's been taking a lot more shots at Robinhood. But, I mean, we can transition to SoFi right here. I mean, basically, he sounds pretty damn bullish. He sounds pretty damn bullish from my understanding of what he said. And, you know, he said they're ready to roll out crypto. He said they're ready to roll out more types of innovation to the overall blockchain tech. He says that stablecoins are going to start to be more exciting in the actual ecosystem. So, I mean, it was a pretty good interview. I don't have the actual video of the interview, but overall, you know, he was pretty excited. And it doesn't look like they're going to have a bad Q3 going into the end of the year. This is one clip I have of Noda taking a little shot at Hood, probably right here.
Which allows us to reinvest in the business and, most importantly, drive continuous responsible innovation. A lot of companies drive innovation, but it's not responsible innovation. Well, let's talk about that. Which allows us.
He's definitely talking about Robinhood. A lot of companies have innovate, but they're not responsible. Yeah, he's talking about Robinhood right there. So anyway, look, I think SoFi is going to do well. I think they're going to have a good earnings. I mean, Bank of America crushed it yesterday. Morgan Stanley crushed it yesterday. These banks are just producing. Morgan Stanley beat by 35% on EPS. I mean, these bank beats are just becoming incredible to witness. SoFi is actually growing as a bank. They're not, 3, 4, 5% per year. They're upwards of 30%. So if the JP Morgans and Citibanks of the world are saying credit delinquencies are lower than expected on the market close, we were reading through the transcript, and JPM said literally their delinquency rates came in better than expected, aka they weren't as high as they thought it was going to be. And then Citigroup said we see them coming in line, so it's not that big of a deal. SoFi's credit underwriting is pretty phenomenal. I don't think they're going to have that many issues this quarter. The question is, can this stock get a re-rating into the mid-30s? And we're going to see. Rate cuts coming down are super bullish. No delinquency issues is super bullish. Overall refinancing demand is super bullish. Crypto coming back is super bullish. SoFi said by November 15th or by early November, you'll be able to apply to sign up to SoFi's crypto products as they're bringing that back to the ecosystem as well. Yeah, here's what they tweeted yesterday. Joined by 11/30/2025, so November 30th, you can open an account and you can sign up to trade crypto. So I think SoFi will be okay. It's just a question of now them showing out their execution as well. All right, so that's what we got on SoFi. Let's go to some of the stuff going on in the world of crypto. Ethereum. BM&R actually moving a little bit in the pre-markets as Ethereum is moving up 54.83. Now, we don't know if Tom Lee has bought Ethereum. However, there are some wallet addresses that are associated with Tom Lee and his buying spree of Ethereum. And they're saying that he bought another 28,000 Ethereum over the past 2 days. Again, we get an update every Monday, and so we'll hear from the company themselves if they actually started buying more Ethereum. But based on some of these blockchain addresses, it does look like they are buying more ETH. I mean, it makes sense. ETH in this 4,000 range is what they want to buy. They were buying it at 3,700. I would imagine they'd rather buy here than at 4,700. And as a result, you're seeing a little bit of momentum right there. Bitcoin as well, 111.54. Whereas MicroStrategy pre-markets, MicroStrategy right here, 301. It did close below 296 yesterday. And then Coinbase is at 340. That's all screen. BM&R got a $90 price target initiated. Do we know the company that did that? I'd be curious to see what bank gave them $90. BM&R 90. Was it JMP Securities? No, B. Riley. Wow, B. Riley. All right, $90. This is the first real price target I've seen on the street. Asbed got 35. Okay, so the reason I said JMP is because Devin Ryan, one of our analysts who's covered Hood for a long time, he initiated coverage on Asbed. He doesn't have a price target, but he initiated coverage on them. And so he is becoming a bit more bullish about these ETH treasuries. I didn't expect Devin Ryan, who's like a hardcore financial guy, to initiate coverage on an ETH treasury. Again, he's been bullish Robinhood. He's one of the only people who's bullish Robinhood on the street at $8. But he said, yeah, I think SBET's a buy. And I was like, huh, okay. So it looks like maybe the finance guys are coming around to these ETH treasuries. And, you know, the reason they are probably doing that, if I had to guess, is because they're probably talking to a lot of people on Wall Street. And a lot of people on Wall Street are telling them that we think Ethereum is going to be the blockchain of choice when it comes to bringing Wall Street assets on chain. And if that's the case, you got Wall Street guys probably thinking, all right, well, these digital asset treasuries are probably going to get somewhat of a multiple. And as a result, if you want to have some exposure, if JP Morgan's going to start integrating all their assets and BlackRock's going to tokenize real estate on Ethereum onto Ethereum. And as a result, you're getting some more excitement right there. The other big update on Ethereum yesterday, which we didn't cover on the market close because I missed it, was Alibaba. So Alibaba's Alipay and its 1.4 billion monthly active users are processing on an Ethereum L2. Jove is an Ethereum L2 launched by Ant Group, which is one of the world's largest mobile payment platforms by Alipay. It is huge and it's flown completely under the radar in terms of the types of companies that are actually working on Ethereum layer 2s. And again, those layer 2s end up helping Ethereum long-term, especially with the supply of volume that's on those blockchains and the gas fees. And so you have one of the biggest payment providers in the world that is saying we are starting to bring things on chain in China, out of all places. You know, China's not been the most friendliest to crypto for Ethereum. So, I mean, again, like I know Ethereum's not moving like crazy. No, it's not going to the moon. BMNR is kind of stuck right here. But if you believe in that long-term vision of tokenization and stablecoins, you probably take a bet on Ethereum. And whether it's buying ETH directly, whether it's buying HOOD as your exposure, whether it's buying Coinbase, or whether it's buying BMNR, do you think having some exposure is not the worst thing in the world? DoorDash and Google owned Waymo just announced a new partnership to launch an autonomous delivery service in Metro Phoenix. Okay, so DoorDash and Google. DoorDash up 4% right here. Dude, I've never looked into DoorDash, but the amount of DoorDash drivers I see in my city, I mean, like, it makes me want to take another look at DoorDash. Like, this is a real business, and this is a real source of income for a lot of people. And, you know, I've never really lived in a city. Now that I'm in a city and I see how many people are door dashing, it's quite incredible. And I've never really looked at the economics of DoorDash. But there you go, up 4% based on that partnership here with Google in Phoenix. Google right here, back to 252. That's back above 250 in the pre-markets. Amazon One Medical introduces pay-per-visit healthcare for children's ages 2 through 11. Medical message visits start at $29 and video visits cost $49. Okay, so Amazon's going a little bit of the teledoc route. Amazon wanting to be involved in every single part of people's lives. Is that bearish Hims at all? Hims is a little red. Hims is a little bit red on this news. Of course, now Amazon Medical Services, Amazon Pharmacy, this has been out for a while, and they've been trying to put on ancillary services on it for Prime members for a while. Engaging in the video operating ecosystem for medical services is not that crazy, given, you know, we're starting to see that normalize a lot more. Teladoc right there, that stock is up a little bit in the pre-markets. I don't think it's the most bearish Hims, but Hims right there, 62.49. Now, the reason Hims was up 18% yesterday, got to 65, came back down to 62 on the close, is because of the HERS launch. And the HERS launch was the thing where, you know, Hims has a part of their business called HERS, and they launched some tools for menopause, which is something that older women go through. And as a result, I mean, I don't know why that was the reason why the stock took off, but that was the reason why the stock took off. And as a result, it went green. Now, I did sell half my Hims yesterday. So again, I just don't want to turn this into a long-term position. So I sold into some of that liquidity and I kept the other half. But this part definitely was weird yesterday. And I'm not going to, this is not bearish Hims, but it is weird, bro. Someone tweeted the Hims squeeze is here. And then Andrew Dudum, the CEO, quote tweeted that with a rolling eye emoji. Is it just me, or is this really cringe? Like, really, really cringe. Like, I do not want to see a CEO quote tweet a retail investor talking about a stock squeezing with a rolling eye emoji, trying to get his audience to realize that his stock is in a squeezy position. Mind you, Hims is already up 100% year to date. It's not like the stock is stuck at $4 and he's desperate to catch a bid. Like, Hims is up a lot, and Andrew Dudum has taken a lot of profits on the stock by selling a lot of stock this year. So I really think it's weird, bro. That's not a rolling eye. Oh yeah, rolling eyes. Oh yeah, you're right, rolling eyes. Well, whatever you call the looking emoji, whatever you call it, it's the looking emoji. All right, the looking emoji. It's weird, bro. Like, I'm not saying this is bearish hymns or anything. This has nothing to do with the stock. It's just like, I don't like it, bro. There's a way to engage with retail investors without being this cringe. Like, Vlad would never do that, bro. If I tweeted, "Oh, Robinhood's getting squeezed," he would never quote tweet that and give me an eye emoji and try to convince people that his stock is like, he barely talks about the stock. He hesitates to ever talk about the stock online because you just don't do that, right? Like, you let your actions do the talking. You don't actually talk about the stock itself. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird for me, but regardless, I don't think that's like bearish HIMS or anything. It was just one of those things that I didn't love to see. Nonetheless, HIMS was up 18% yesterday. Now, the question for HIMS is, can they keep up that momentum? The stock got to 65 for the first time after a couple months. So today's going to be a really important thing to see if it's enough to keep it going. HIMS' short float is still 35%. There could be a squeeze happening. Maybe the shorts double down because we've been through this rodeo many times. But I think when the market opens, we're going to see what happens in the context of HIMS. 62.49 is what we have on HIMS. Now, let's talk about this Palantir Snowflake partnership. So Palantir did announce this morning that they are partnering with Snowflake. And the idea of the partnership is actually very similar to what Chad talked about. Now, Chad came on the channel a couple months ago. I think it was in early August, and basically said that Palantir wants to be a more interoperable platform with all the other companies that are out there and that exist. And the idea is, hey, if you are on Snowflake or you are on Databricks, there's no reason for you to necessarily leave your data provider. You should be able to integrate with Palantir. So, quote from the press release today, Eaton is one of the first companies that is going to be working with this integration on Snowflake and Palantir. And the chief data officer says, discoverability, accessibility, and usability are key to unlocking the value of our data assets for the business. With a native integration between Snowflake and Palantir, two of our strategic technology partners, we eliminate tedious data movement tasks, allowing us to focus on delivering outcomes ranging from agentic configuration, pricing, and quoting to digital twins on our shop floor and improved pricing in our products on the field. Chief Revenue Officer of Snowflake said, bringing the power of the Palantir and Snowflake platforms together is a natural fit aimed at reducing friction for customers to more easily deploy intelligent apps and accelerate time to value. This is exactly what Chad talked about a month ago. And then Ted Mabry, global head of commercial at Palantir, said, first-class interoperability means our customers win. We are excited to partner with Snowflake to power our customers' futures together. Eaton setting the standard for what the AI-powered institution of the future will look like. I think this is super bullish. And the reason this is super bullish is because you want to see Palantir being able to get customers or be able to expand the relationship they have with customers without forcing those customers to leave the companies that they're already working with. If you're integrated on Salesforce and your company has been integrated on Salesforce for like 5 years, you're not just going to leave Snowflake. You're not just going to leave Snowflake and go to Palantir, even if Palantir is more compelling of an offer. So the ability to integrate with them and Palantir for Palantir to be able to get a slice of that revenue while still providing a lot of value long term, I think is a genius move. And that theoretically should be a go-to market that massively accelerates the customer adoption. And as a result, the commercial revenue, which again, that commercial revenue growing at the levels that's growing at, if that can continue for the next 3 or 4 years, I mean, they're going to be doing tens of billions of dollars of revenue by 2030, 2032. So I think that's going to be really important to see. And as a result, it makes sense for them to work together. If you can't beat them, then join them. Yeah, it's a little bit of that, hey, if you can't beat them, join them philosophy. But it's also kind of like, Palantir is not beating this company to get off of Snowflake, and Snowflake might not be beating this company for them to get off of Palantir. So both of them recognizing we might as well just be interoperable and work together. And this is exactly what the Palantir Databricks federal government partnership was like back in March of 2025. And, as a result, I think that's why we're seeing more of that momentum together. Google right there up about 1%. Palantir is up 1%. Snowflake's actually had a pretty good year as well. Snowflake right there, 250. That is up 4% in the pre-markets as well. So that's what you got for Palantir and Snowflake. AMD right there, that's down about 0.5%, 237. AMD exploded yesterday. We don't know why. I think it was more so because of the Oracle partnership that kind of got delayed. The macro news with the soybeans kind of took Oracle and AMD down on Wednesday. So it looks like yesterday kind of brought it back up. And, or it took it down on Tuesday, and Wednesday brought it back up. And, now AMD chilling above the 230s, potentially normalizing above the 230s, which would be very nice. Do you still have your Misty? Yes, I still have my Misty. Look, at the end of the day, I've said this over and over. The reason Misty is in a horrible situation right now is because Bitcoin has been in a horrible situation. And unfortunately, until Bitcoin starts to get its act together, until this digital gold shit starts acting like real gold, which is hitting new all-time highs as we speak, MicroStrategy is going to suck. And as a result, the derivative on MicroStrategy is also going to suck as well. So if you look at the NVDY ETF or the Robinhood ETF from YieldMax, those are performing phenomenally well with juicy dividends because the underlyings are performing well. Bitcoin's just not doing as well for MicroStrategy. So until that catches up, which maybe by the end of the year it does, then we'll see some progress from that perspective. Oh, we got Mr. Chad in the chat. I do these partnerships and I can't remember when we did them. How the hell did you know which month we did these partnerships? Well, I was at AIPCon and I was interviewing. I was interviewing the Databricks guy in March, and so that's why I remember that it was a March partnership. I think that was AIPCon 5. Yeah, it was AIPCon 5. And so when I interviewed the Databricks guy, that's how I remember the partnership. But shout out to Chad. I mean, again, basically what he talked about in August, this idea of interoperability with all these other companies, that's what the Snowflake Palantir announcement was like today. So as soon as I saw it in the morning, I was like, I was kind of waiting for this. Like Palantir's already partnered with so many other of these SaaS companies, including Databricks. So at its core, Snowflake is still a company that is growing upwards of 28%. They have thousands of customers. It makes sense for them to work with companies like Palantir and for Palantir to be able to also integrate into their customers to provide value. So that's what we got with the Snowflake Palantir partnership today. All right, let's talk about India. Let's talk about India because we have some macro news yesterday as per Trump. So Trump did a long press conference yesterday, and he talked about a variety of things, and some stuff the market liked, some stuff the market did not like. Now, why did the market go down yesterday at around 1 p.m.? Basant gave a quote to the World Bank, and basically Basant said, hey, you guys need to stop working with China because China is really messing up the rare earth exports, and as a result, it's not something that we should be supporting as a global organization. Now, rare earths took it on the chin yesterday, all of them down about 15%. Some of them recovering right here. MP's up a little bit, TMQ, CRML, USAR, LAC is still down. But a lot of the rare earths got hit off that comment and the idea that the United States was getting closer to decoupling with China. Then Trump went live, and Trump basically said that we are in a trade war with China. He then said, India assured me they would stop buying Russian oil, which we'll talk about. And he said 5 or 6 wars have been solved because of my use of tariffs. So Trump brought back the tariff conversation to the public mainstream, which hasn't really been that much of a conversation over the past couple months. But now as he gets into this conversation with China next week in South Korea about whatever they're going to try to negotiate to resolve all the differences that they have and hopefully get to a final confirmed trade deal, it looks like he's bringing back tariffs as a form of leverage. This is what Trump said yesterday in regards to India, which I think was one of the most important comments he made in the press conference.
And he's assured me there will be no oil purchased from Russia. I don't know, maybe that's a breaking story. Can I say that? Would you say? There will be no oil. He's not buying his oil from Russia. It started. You can't do it immediately. It's a little bit of a process. But the process is going to be over with soon. And all we want from President Putin is stop this. Stop killing Ukrainians and stop killing Russians, because he's killing a lot of Russians. Again, it doesn't make him look good. It's a war that he should have won in 1 week, and he's now going into his 4th year. That does not make this big so-called war machine look good. And he's assured.
All right. So Trump says Modi, the prime minister of India, assured him that they will stop buying oil. Now, an Indian government source today said 2 quotes. They said, where there is a possibility, it might be possible to replace any reduction in supplies from Russia with uptake from the U.S., aka the Indian government kind of backing up what Trump said, saying that we might stop buying Russian oil and replace it with United States oil. But that same government source also said that if we were to stop buying oil from Russia, there would be a dramatic increase in electricity prices for Indian residents. And I don't know if Modi is ready to get the political backlash from his own citizens around electricity prices going up, especially when, the vast majority of India is not in some rich elite class, and they're not going to be able to afford a dramatic increase in electricity prices. So look, if Trump is able to get India to stop buying Russian oil, that would significantly increase the odds that maybe Russia doesn't have as much leverage and can, finally come to the negotiating table to put an end to this war with Ukraine, because they're not getting finance from India. But India is also looking out for the 1.4 billion people that they have to deal with. Now, talking about energy and electricity prices, I mean, we were talking about this yesterday. So my power went out 5 minutes before the market opened, and thankfully it came back, and I was joking that a data center took all my power. But it's becoming a thing, folks. So Bloomberg did a report that wholesale electricity costs as much as 267% more than it did 5 years ago in areas near data centers. That's being passed on to more customers. And you had Chamath right here saying that Google was about to lose a vote by the Indianapolis City Council and withdrew a proposal for a $1 billion data center. Microsoft pulled back a similar project in Wisconsin based on a community pushback. Are these isolated incidents or beginning of a trend? If the data below is accurate, then we should expect that more local communities will push back to stop data center buildouts in the region if it spikes electricity prices so much. And by the way, if you're a local resident in Indiana and OpenAI says we're going to build out a data center, and then you see Sam Altman tweet that we are exploring ways for adult erotica to be the next vertical that we explore on ChatGPT. And you put 2 and 2 together and you say, holy crap, my electricity prices are going to double because someone wants to make personalized messages coming from some ChatGPT AI for them to engage in an adult way. I mean, it becomes unfathomable to believe that that is the use case for AI that is creating an electricity price to go higher. And that's just the darn truth, right? A lot of people are like, okay, we understand the promise of AI, but if that is the reason for our electricity price to go higher, there's no way in hell we're going to allow that to happen. And so Chamath's idea, which I agree with right here, is that the hyperscalers should take the electricity costs of local residents to zero and start buying goodwill. Otherwise, I expect more local communities to push back on these data centers, which will complicate the AI build out that needs to happen. I mean, if big tech is not willing to subsidize the solar farms, the nuclear farms, the oil and gas that is necessary to keep costs tame in a region, and they're pushed to the residents of Indiana or Wisconsin are, hey, well, you can like summarize your emails faster because of these data centers. I mean, a lot of people are going to be upset. A lot of people. I mean, I would be upset too. I think anyone would be upset if a data center is the reason you can't operate your day-to-day because this promise of AI, which you haven't fully even seen play out yet, is, you know, one of the reasons for why your electricity prices are going higher, especially if it's because of what Sam Altman was talking about. So, I mean, this stuff is really, really important to, I think, understand long-term. There's a lot of issues going on right now in Oregon. If you look up Oregon data center pushback, you have a variety of different tech companies that are probably trying to set up data centers in Oregon. That's, you know, north of San Francisco. California has a bunch of different regulations, so they're trying to go to places that are a bit more laissez-faire. And I think there's going to be more implications on what happens on these data centers. So the promise of AI, as important as it is for all of us as investors, we're also human beings that have to pay the bills. And, you know, at the end of the day, I don't know if NVIDIA's stock is going to be enough for us to deal with massive, massive bills. And if we want to even sell our stocks to sell electricity bills, but that's not something that can double overnight. And if it does, you know, we're going to have some issues in terms of how this plays out. However, this is why the energy stocks are continuing to get a bid. Because again, why does an Oklo have a $25 billion market cap and it has no revenue? Because people think the revenue is definitely coming if Sam Altman is headfast on making sure that these data centers exist. You're going to need some type of power. And maybe that power comes through nuclear, which is why that stock is going great. But that's what we got in the context of data centers and the relationship it has to overall what's happening with AI and energy demand. What you're talking about is what built the internet. Yeah, I mean, look, it makes sense for what Sam Altman is going after. Obviously, I think all the AI companies are probably going to go after. I just didn't think they would be this explicit about it. I mean, I really didn't think at this state they would be that explicit. But it goes to show how ruthless OpenAI is because and so here, okay, he tweeted, I'm seeing this right now. He tweeted trying to clear up what he talked about. Okay, so let's read this together. This tweet about upcoming changes to ChatGPT blew up on the erotica point much more than I thought it was going to. It was meant to be just one example of us allowing more user freedom for adults. Here is an effort to better communicate it. All right, let's read this together. Let's see how he defends this. As we have said earlier, we are making a decision to prioritize safety over privacy and freedom for teenagers, and we are not loosening any policies related to mental health. This is a new and powerful technology, and we believe we need significant protection. We also care very much about the principle of treating adult users like adults. As AI becomes more important in people's lives, allowing a lot of freedom for people to use AI in the ways that they want is an important part of our mission. He's going super libertarian on that. Dude, whenever you want to justify something, you just go super freedom, liberty, humanity, pursuit of happiness. You go that route and you try to get people to be on board. It doesn't apply across the board, of course. For example, we will still not allow things that cause harm to others, and we will treat users who are having mental health crises very different from users who are not. Without being paternalistic, we will attempt to help users achieve their long-term goals. But we are not the elected moral police of the world. In the same way that society differentiates other appropriate boundaries, R-rated movies, for example, we want to do a similar thing here. I mean, look, I get it from a libertarian perspective. It's just, dude, when you give that type of technology to adults, to the masses, and every adult can have their own personalized version of whatever they want to come up with. I mean, it makes you really think Black Mirror, dystopia, AI relationships. I don't know if it's good for humanity. It's going to be great for freaking corporate shareholders of OpenAI. It's going to be great for NVIDIA. It's going to be great for AMD. It's going to be great for any company that gives the computing power to ChatGPT to operate this stuff. Is it good for humanity? I don't know. I have no idea. But the reason I thought it was kind of weird for this is because, like, the fact that he wants to focus on this when there's so many other verticals of AI that you would think they would go after just shows how much they think this can be a big vertical, not even a big vertical, a massive vertical. And it also shows how ruthless they are, which is that they don't care. They're going to go after anything that makes money. And by the way, they kind of need to go after anything that makes money because OpenAI is in the center of everything that's going on with AI. If they don't make money, if this doesn't work out, we're going to have some issues. And so I guess from that perspective, that's why Sam Altman is going for whatever he can go for. So that is what we've got with OpenAI. Amit, is Amcor a trade or is it a long-term hold? I mean, look, originally I got into it for a trade, but we're going to see how this ends up playing out. My target is 50 by next year, I would say from 6 to 12 months, right? So I think the re-rating, I think, could happen by the middle of next year, more likely towards the end of next year. But this TSM news was pretty bullish, dude. I mean, again, Amcor is one of the only semiconductor packaging companies in the United States that is working with TSM. Like, they really don't have that much competition. I mean, I have one or two other people that are out there, but Amcor is the company working with Apple, NVIDIA, the federal government in regards to the Commerce Secretary and the Commerce Department, and TSM, which is setting up another fab in Arizona. So look, it trades at one-time sales. It feels relatively cheap for a re-rating. I think this thing gets to 50, and if it does, then I think it's a good trade. But if TSM just continues to grow, if CapEx continues to grow, could this thing re-rate even further than that? Yeah, but my target right here is 50. And essentially to play on the price to sales multiple. Like, some companies you use EV to EBITDA, some companies you use PE. For Amcor, you use price to sales. And I think, if they double their revenues, they could increase that price to sales multiple and they should do okay. I don't see a re-rating with packaging. They're going to have to put up real growth. I mean, their margins aren't the best. They're going to have to put up real growth. But again, when you have the entire administration ready to really introduce the onshoring of manufacturing for semiconductors in the United States, and Amcor is one of a handful of companies that's actually in that packaging ecosystem, that's where I think the growth comes in. So they're going to have to put up the growth. If they don't put up the growth, we're not going to get a re-rating. But if they do put up the growth, I think it can be good. Speaking of growth, let's take a look at Charles Schwab. EPS is up 70% year over year. They beat by 5%, 131 versus 125. And then revenue's up 27% year over year, 6.13 billion versus 6.02. They beat by 2%. Grab's earnings call is November 3rd. Grab will be on November 3rd. That first week in November is going to be a pretty wild week, but November 3rd will be there for Grab. So look, Schwab is not a Robinhood in terms of growth, but I mean, revenue's up almost 30% year over year. EPS is up almost 70%. First of all, super bullish Hood. I mean, if Schwab is putting up these type of growth numbers, I'm pretty excited for what Hood can put up. But second of all, it just shows that the brokerage market is exploding. For those that were not on the market close yesterday, there was a stat that I shared. Some of you guys heard it, some of you guys did not hear it, but I told you guys we were going to get a lot more data on what happened on Friday in regards to investors and if they ended up buying the dip and how that all played out. We got some of that data, and this data is just quite incredible to see. Last week was the 5th largest increase in single stock inflows in history for the stock market. Last week, when we had that 3% drawdown, aka stocks went down, and it was the 5th largest time in history. People said we're buying the dip. And it was the biggest week ever for the stock market when the market was down at least 1%. I mean, dude, what happened on Friday was the market went down and people said, oh, markets are down, I'm going to buy the dip. And people bought the freaking dip. The biggest week ever for the stock market when it was down at least 1%. I mean, I knew the stats would be kind of crazy last week, but they were crazy. And so as a result, if we get another 3% drawdown, I mean, I think you're going to get more people that get excited to buy the dip. And that is kind of the generation of dip buying that we are currently in. Yeah, Robinhood earnings will be on November 5th. So that first week in November. Palantir is also on November 3rd. We're going to have a ton of companies in November. Grab, no updates on Grab. Again, my only update here is I think they're continued to be manipulated. I mean, they're getting price targets across the board. We already know Anthony Tan said Q3 is going to be very strong. I mean, I think Q3 is going to go well. I think it hopefully breaks above that 650 level and stays above it. But right now the shorts are in control. And as long as the shorts are in control, you're not going to see too much of a re-rating yet by Grab, but I think they can give us some good earnings growth, and we can see some momentum going into Q3. Amazon, again, I continue to buy Amazon. I bought more Amazon yesterday. I did an entire segment on Amazon yesterday on the daily recap, so you guys can watch that to kind of get my full thoughts. But I'm thinking of Amazon as just like, it's safe. It's not that risky. It trades at a 56% EV to EBITDA multiple discount. The average EV to EBITDA for the Max 7 is 40. Amazon is at 17. I mean, like, it's just not that scary. And it's freaking Amazon. Like, also, the other thing I was thinking about last night, dude, and this I didn't get to talk about this on the daily recap because I forgot. The robotics inflection on operating margins is something that I don't think we're talking about enough. Amazon is a like beast when it comes. They're a behemoth in the industry of robotics. I don't know if they're going to get that deep into humanoid robotics, but as robotics continue to scale and as AI makes robotics even more efficient, operating margins should increase. And the inflection on robotics on the actual commerce business itself, not even just AWS, you know, Amazon does a lot of revenue. If they increase their margins even by 0.5 percentage point every quarter or every year, you're talking about tens of billions of dollars of net income coming back to the bottom line, which should increase that PE multiple. So I have zero fear in buying Amazon at these levels. I don't even care if it's stuck at 216 by the end of the year. Like, I'm not buying Amazon to see the stock go up in the short term. I'm really not. And I think a lot of people that are getting into this name probably shouldn't have that perspective. If it does go up, great. But I think you should be buying it because it's a great opportunity. And over the long term, you know, Amazon's probably going to be much more valuable than it is right now. So that's why I like Amazon. Micron got an increase on their price target, 225 to 245. Okay, Micron continuing to get some love from the street. I mean, this stock was hated for like 5 months. And look at that, breaking 200 pre-markets. Let me know if you own Micron. Is this an all-time high for Micron? Yeah, wow, all-time high for Micron. Went public back in the 90s, breaking 200 right here. The TSM demand is probably a tailwind for them, up 4%, getting new price targets. And Micron continuing to go green. So not too bad right there. Rich Tech Robotics, let's see how that one's doing. We got about 2 minutes into the market open, 627. That's up 1.2%. Rocket Lab was above 70. That's up 1.4%. ASTS, that one was almost 195.29. That's slightly down in the pre-markets. Amcor, that continues to go green. TSM, again, they had a massive earnings. For those that are just joining, TSM absolutely smashed it. 310, 57% of their sales were GPUs compared to 30% being smartphones. And so you're seeing ASML get that love as well from their earnings, but TSM really getting some of that love today in the morning, 1.9%. Speaking of smartphones, real quick before we get into the market open, Meta poached another one of Apple's executives for search. So one of the head people working on Siri for search quit, and his name is Qi Yang. He joined weeks ago as the head of Apple's Answers, and now he has left for Meta. It was a team called AKI, Apple's Answer, Knowledge, and Information Team, to spearhead a ChatGPT-like AI search. Yeah, he left for Meta. I don't know, bro. Meta's just finding a way to get all these people. I don't know how much money they're giving. I don't know if this is super bullish Meta or if this is just super bearish Apple. But Meta finds a way to reward these people with some type of compensation package and get them to be excited to leave. And as a result, a lot more people are choosing to leave. All right, folks, here we go. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is Tuesday. No, it's not. It is Thursday, October 16th, 9:30 a.m. Thank you all again for being here. The stock market is once again open. All right, let's get into it. Wake your ass up. S&P 500, 667, up 0.28%. We were at 670 yesterday, and then we lost it after some of the dissent comments on China. So let's see if we can regain that today. I mean, again, we were at 647 last Friday. So the fact that we are even above 665 is super bullish, but that's up about 0.26% on the day. Hoodie, 135.07, that's up about 0.75%. Palantir, that's up 1.4%. NVIDIA, that's up 0.5%. Tesla, that's basically flat. Tesla had a nice 4% move yesterday, 435 right there on Tesla, not moving too much. Grab right there is up about 0.42%. Google's up 0.5%. SoFi goes red. Weird. SoFi goes red. Shopify's flying. Shopify is up 5%. Not sure why. There's got to be some partnership on Shopify that's causing that. So we'll see if we can get the headline. But Shopify right there. Is that? No, that's not all-time highs, but that's The last time Shopify was at this level, November 22nd, 2021. So it's taken about 4 years to get back here. But Shopify right there, 163. Reddit, that's up 1.3. Amazon, that's up 0.5%. Meta, that is up a little bit right now. PayPal, that is also green. Elf, that's up 1.2. Apple's actually down, potentially on that Meta news of someone leaving Apple for Meta. 247, that's down about 1%. SMCI, that's up 1.2. Where is Amcor? That stock is up 4.7%, 32.77. So that's about 5% green on the day. Microsoft, that's up 0.5%. Enphase is up almost 1%. Where is BMNR? Are we at 52? We are at 55. Not bad. That's up 3%. All right, Bitmine getting some love. Rocket Lab, that's up 2%. Rocket Lab, dare I say it, is it normalizing above 70? I mean, it's literally only been a couple of days, but who knows? If it normalizes above 70, that would be incredible for shareholders. CoreWeave, 141.28. That's up 1.4. Archer, that's up 4.3%. GME, that's flat. Intel is down about 0.5% on the day. Tesla now goes red. Tesla officially goes red. Rock Lab is still up. Palantir is up 0.5% or up 1%. Robinhood up 1.3. ASTS Space Mobile, 96.29. That's up 0.5% as well. You have some pretty good green momentum. Rare earth companies are all green except LAC and USAR. So kind of a little bit of a mixed bag right there. Some of them are green, some of them are red. If we look at the Bitcoin miners turned data centers, they are all red except TeraWulf, Iren, and Galaxy. Riot, Marathon, Bitfarm. Wow, Bitfarm's down 9%. Bitfarms did dilute by 300 million yesterday. So that could be the reason why those guys are getting hit. But, that stock's still up from 250. CleanSpark as well, 3.3. Now, American Battery Technology Company, these guys are down 30% because they filed an 8K saying that they lost a grant from the Department of Energy. Again, some of these names that have just gone nuclear, like if they have any piece of bad news that affects the company, then their stocks are going to get hit pretty badly. And that's what you're seeing with American Battery Technology. That one's down about 31% on the day. SoundHound right there, that's green. That's up 2.8%. Is Oscar running? Oscar back above 21. Okay, that's up 3.5%. This one did get to 25 at one point. Now that stock is at 21. LAC dropping for the third day in a row. Again, LAC I think is also just tired, dude. A lot of these stocks are just exhausted. Like Robinhood's another name. Like Robinhood's exhausted, bro. This thing went from 120 to 50. Realistically, it went from 97 to 150 in 3 weeks. I mean, sometimes it gets exhausted. You get the buyers that just don't want to be buying as easily. You get the options market chilling out a little bit. So I think some of these names also are just taking a bit of a breather. AMD right there, 237. That's down 0.5%. SoFi, I don't know why this is down. I feel like SoFi should be up. I don't know what's going on. But SoFi's down. Salesforce, are you getting a move? You're getting a move. Up almost 7% on Mr. Salesforce. Again, they announced $60 billion in revenues for 2030. So they gave guidance for 5 years, and they announced that they would get to a rule of 40 or a rule of 50. So some positive metrics on Salesforce, and that's why that stock is going green, up 7% on the day. BMNR, are we pushing 56? We might. 55.41 as ETH is above 40. So that one's going green. SLNH, another name in these data center plays, that's up another 14%, breaking through $4. I mean, look, we talked about, I don't have a position in this, but we talked about this when it was like $1.50. It was too small for me to want to make an investment in. I didn't know enough about it, but it could be one of the next players that's pivotal in data centers. I think also its small share price is getting a lot of attraction. A lot of people are just excited because it's a couple bucks. But, the question is if the company can actually execute in regards to helping build out these data centers. But that stock right here is up about 12% on the day. Jim Chanos continues to be bearish on Iren. Jim Chanos is bearish on a lot of names right now. I did see his tweet yesterday that he thinks Iren, I mean, I don't think he says it's a Ponzi, but he basically says that these numbers and these valuations make no sense based on what they're doing, and he doesn't believe in their GPU licensing, all that stuff. Now, granted, Chanos is bearish, a lot of stuff, but he is not the most optimistic for Iren. Iren right there down about 2.29% on the day. Is Navitas moving? Are we above 15? Are we above 15? Wow, it's above 16. That, I think, might be a little bit of a short squeeze because obviously the announcement they had on earnings was super bullish, and that helped them out. Or sorry, not the earnings announcement, the NVIDIA announcement. But it was already up 40%. For it to go up another 20%, that might be the shorts being squeezed. Yeah, dude, this stock is short 28.25%. This is probably a squeeze. This is probably a little bit of a squeeze. Navitas right there, 1680. That's up 10.5% on the day. Let me text Jose and see if he can make it on the show today, because we'd definitely like to get his thoughts. Let's see if he can help explain some of the stuff that's going on. Navitas, where they're up 8.3%. Square, that's up 2%. Then NVIDIA, that's up 1.2%. Uber launches data tasks as an option for some U.S. drivers to earn money. Okay, looks like Uber is trying to diversify some of their business model to help drivers make more revenue. Uber right there, 94.93. That stock's still green on the day. We got a new Bank of America survey. Fund managers entered Friday's downturn at their most bullish stance in 8 months, which makes sense because usually when everyone's bullish, you get a downturn. So, but if you look at the other data from Bank of America saying that, it was the biggest week in stock market history for single stock inflows when the market was down at least 1%, it goes to show those same funds. That was not just retail, by the way, that was the entire market. So that just shows that retail and institutional investors bought the freaking dip, and they bought it decisively. So that's what we got there. Robinhood right here, 135.68, and then you got Palantir, 180.31. That is also green. Oscar short float is also 20%. Yes, that could create a little bit more of a squeeze. The problem with Oscar is, what if Trump and the Democrats and the shutdown announce something that is not the most bullish for healthcare subsidies? Again, maybe that's not going to be a concern, but that is, as quick as the stock goes up, it can go down if you get some piece of news that's not the most exciting. Now, granted, I think the bulls are in favor here of getting the extension on the subsidies, but that's just the one risk I think I would watch out for when it comes to Oscar. NVIDIA right there, 182. That is green. Why is SoFi down 1%, bro? Who is selling off SoFi here? Noto was just on Mad Money yesterday. He didn't say anything that I thought was bearish. I feel like it's a fake out before earnings, bro. SoFi tends to do this. You got earnings in about a week. I don't know. That's weird. That is weird. In a market where you got a lot of names that are high flying and SoFi has really not made a move in the past month or two, it is weird for that one to be stuck. AppLovin still back below 600. Circle, that's down 1%, or that's up 1%. Microsoft is flat. Palo Alto's up 1.4. MicroStrategy back above 300. That is also green. SoFi announced an AWS partnership. Well, that's not going to get the stock to move that much, but I just think if you think rates are coming down end of year, and these, the other reason this is surprising is because the banks have absolutely demolished earnings. So it's like, SoFi still is a bank at the end of the day. They're probably going to have really good earnings, but it's almost like the market doesn't fully believe it yet. Look at KeyBank, another earnings, regional bank. Look at this. EPS is up 37% year over year. They beat by 8%. Revenue is up 173% year over year. They beat by 1% on revenue, 1.89 billion versus 1.88. You're talking about banks that are absolutely crushing it. So I don't think SoFi would do the verse. Archer acquired some of Lilium's intellectual property yesterday, which is why Archer got the bid. It's up another 9.5% right here. So, look, if you're bullish on Archer ultimately acquiring and consolidating in the EV space or the eVTOL space, then that's bullish. Archer right here now up 47% year to date, up another 9% right here. If Archer can just get some of these prototypes out into the real world, I think that would create a lot more investor confidence, but there's a passionate retail base that believes in what they're doing. And, that's why they're catching a bid right here. Joby as well, that's up 6% on the day. So both of those eVTOLs going green. Is Iran going down? Iran is getting hit, down 5%. Again, Iran, I think it's exhausted, bro. I think it's exhausted. And you can't be upset. And this is advice to myself as well. If you bought Iran at 74 yesterday, you cannot be upset at anyone other than yourself. You cannot blame the market. You cannot blame Iran CEO. You got to blame yourself. And I've said the same thing to myself when I bought into strength on a company and then it goes down 10%. It's like, well, that's my fault, because after a stock goes up 6x, maybe you stay away for a little bit and wait for a better opportunity. It just is what it is. Now, that doesn't mean Iran can't get back to 75. It's just the one thing about these high flyers is once they lose momentum, they've got to get it back. And sometimes there might not be anything fundamental to give it back to them. And look, if Iran ends the year at 50, it's still up 400% for the year. It's like just no one can be upset at that. If Robinhood ends the year at 125 instead of 150, no one can be upset. Like, I refuse to be upset at that. It's still up 3x in a year instead of 3.2x. Like what are we talking about? So the question simply becomes then, do you buy the dip if you kind of bought the short-term top, or do you exit and take the loss? And that comes down to how much you fully understand the company. Amit, did you see the Palantir appearance on South Park? Yes, Palantir has officially made it if they're getting on South Park, bro. That's, it's becoming a cultural phenomenon. at the end of the day. Palo Alto right there, 209, MicroStrategy at 299, Microsoft at 513, and then Enphase at 3780. All the Bitcoin miners are dumping. Yeah, you're right. Look at that. Left-hand side of my screen, all of them getting hit. That's actually weird because TSM's earnings were so bullish. You would think that these guys continue to move. But then again, they're all up. Literally, all of them are up 3 to 4x in the past 6 months, 7 months. Some of them up 8 to 9x. So they're taking a breather. Now, again, we're going to need a couple of days of data to see if the Bitcoin miners are structurally selling off or if this is just an exhaustion period where, again, stocks don't go up every single day and they need to take a breather. I think it'll take probably another week to see if this trend continues. But if the trend is to the downside, it definitely could get a little ugly. But if it reverses tomorrow or on Monday, then you might see some of that not be as bad. The healthiest thing to happen, I think, for the Bitcoin miners is that they take a 10% hit and then they start consolidating in their range, which is super normal, right? Stock goes up 5x, takes a 10, 15% hit, and then it just consolidates. So you don't lose your gains if you bought in early. You're not going to get a lot more gains, but at least you don't lose it. And I think for a lot of people that got early in some of these, you just don't want to lose it, right? Especially if you're not willing to sell it. And I think that's really important. Wow, Google 255. Is that an all-time high? 256 is the all-time high. It is very close to 256 for an all-time high. Let me do the resistance levels on Google and see what we've got going on here. Google 256. Let's see if we get it. Resistance is 10,000 shares. 10,000 shares. I mean, that's not going to be too hard to beat up there. Amit, I watched the mediocre heist movie last night and the detective said to Palantir the evidence to find the robbers. Is that a recent movie or is that an old movie? That'd be crazy, bro. I mean, I guess Palantir is really becoming a part of culture. 256 on Google. That's going to be the high. We're going to see if we get there. TSM is red after they beat on earnings. Again, same thing like the Bitcoin miners. TSM is up 55% for the year. Like a lot of this stuff is priced in. So you're not, I mean, the fact that TSM is down 27 cents today. If you bought TSM at 170, 180, 200, 250, yes, it's not up 10%. You're not super, super happy, but you're also not hopefully super mad because you're not losing these key levels because the growth continues to be a reason for why the stock should get a multiple, even if the multiple doesn't expand. I just think a lot of stocks are exhausted, bro. A lot of names are exhausted. Now, the quantum names don't know what exhaustion feels like. These guys just keep going higher. D-Wave is down about 2% on the day, but that's really nothing for D-Wave. So I guess the only name, the quantum stocks are like David Goggins. Have you ever seen a clip of David Goggins running? They don't get tired. They don't get tired. I mean, what do you mean when I say resistance is 10,000 shares? So on the order book flow for NASDAQ level 2 data, you can see how many shares are waiting to be sold at a certain level. So on Google, there's 11,540 shares waiting to be sold at 256, which means someone has to buy those 11,500 shares at 256 in order for the stock to be above 256, right? There has to be a bidder at those levels for the stock to increase. And that's what I mean by that. But Google's getting pretty freaking close, folks. 8 cents away. 8 cents away to get there. Amit, you can add a widget on your legend to see the ladder, sellers and buyers. Oh, really? Oh, wow. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to look into that after the open. That would actually be really easy so that you guys can see it at the same time I can see it. Okay, that's really cool. All right, there you go. 256. 256 on the Googs. There it is. There it is. 256.11 on the Googs. All-time highs. Amazon up 1% as well, 217.84. Google breaking through 256. I mean, dude, is 260 next? Are we about to start really normalizing the 250s? Maybe. Maybe that's what we are going to see. But Google right there, 256. That is also green. NVIDIA, that's up 1.4%. S&P 500, that's up 0.38%. Palantir, that's up 1.2%. That is also green. And we are getting some love right now. SMCI, is that also running? SMCI, wow, 2.7%. All right, SMCI also 3% running. Chris should be on today on the close or for our macro Thursdays. So we couldn't do it last week because I was getting my root canal. But we should be able to do it this week. SoFi still down 0.5%. Google still up 256.30. Wow. Yeah, Google's definitely trying to go for 257. Resistance at 257 is 4,600 shares. Yeah, I mean, It looks like she wants to go higher. Shout out to Austin. Shout out to Benny. These guys in the chat have been preaching the Google thesis since the low 150s. Zocold, if he's here. They've been saying it. They've been saying it for a while. Google is a buy. And for those that got in it, done very well. ASTS right there up 2.3. Uber's up 0.5%. And then Meta is still up 1% as well. Let's see if we get any data today economically. Government's still shut down. By the way, Kalshi has them at November 16th for a reopening, which is going to take some time, but that would be the longest shutdown ever. No, we're not getting that much data. We get some Fed talk today, but not that much data. Are we at 257 already? Are we at 257? It's very close to 256.80. 256.80 to get to 256. I don't see it hit yet. It didn't hit yet on Legend. So it's trying to get there. Amit, should I sell my Boeing position to roll it into Amazon or Google? I mean, it really depends, right? When did you get into Boeing? Do you believe in Boeing? Do you think Boeing has a better trajectory for growth than Google and Amazon? In general, I personally would pick Google or Amazon over Boeing. That's just me. But look, Jason's a big fan of Boeing. He believes in it and he loves it. So I'm not saying Boeing's a bad company at all. I just think it's easier to, bet on a Google or an Amazon long-term versus a Boeing. So yeah, personally, I would stay on that one. But I do think Boeing, if you kept up with the story of Boeing, I mean, this stock was out with the 160s, so it's been able to make a pretty big move. Question is just now how that continues and where their trajectory of growth goes through. I mean, they had a really crappy 2024 with the strikes and the protests and all that stuff. It seems like that stuff is not as bad as it was before. Celsius 52-week high. Wow, Celsius. Again, this stock I completely missed, and I had a friend who kept yelling at me to freaking look at Celsius, and I didn't. 140% year to date. Dude, I tried the energy drink. I didn't like it. I was like, dude, this tastes like shit. But enough people like it where it doesn't matter. Oh, Jose said he'll come on. All right, so Jose will be on at 10:30, and we'll get his thoughts on what's going on with semis. I completely missed it. The acquisition of Rockstar and Alani was actually, really pivotal for them. And then the renegotiation of their distribution with Pepsi also helped. So Celsius right there at 65. Yes, all this for an energy drink. All the Europeans love Celsius. Dude, I tried it live. It was like early 2023, early 2024. I bought 5 different flavors on the stream. Some of you guys probably still remember you were on the stream with me. And I drank them and I was like, dude, this is disgusting. But Amit wanted to name Fahrenheit instead. Yeah, bro, if it was an American company. Oh, now I get why you say all the Europeans want Celsius. Oh, now I can get the joke. I get it. Yeah, if it was named Fahrenheit. Dude, I haven't made that joke in a while. I think I made that joke like 20 times in 2024. Like, oh, I would drink it if it was called Fahrenheit because I believe in American values. Your boy ended up getting new jokes. I haven't used that joke in over a year. It's a good joke, though. It's a good one. Amit, if you could put Grab's cash to work, what would you do? You mean the $7 billion they have in cash? I would be looking at acquiring competitors in the region. And that's the other wild card with Grab. They have $7 billion in cash, and we don't know what the hell they're using it for. And to me, I think it's requiring a lot of patience, but it also means the stock is incredibly cheap when they have $7.4 billion in cash. They're going to do something with it. I don't know what, but that's where you have to say, hey, do I believe in management? If you believe in management, maybe you're going to get a bit of a move. ABCL, how's that doing? ABCL back to 607. So this one broke out to 7 at one point. It is above 6. I mean, it was stuck at 4 for a long time in the year. So this one's 605. That's down about 1%, but still holding some green. IBKR will have earnings today after hours. IBKR right there. I expect them to do well if Schwab did as well as they did. So we're going to see what happens with IBKR. Did you hear about the YouTube outage yesterday? Yes. I was trying to watch a video randomly at like 7 p.m. and YouTube, it wouldn't work. I think the outage lasted for like 30 minutes. It was all Google products, but it just goes to show how pivotal Google is in everyone's life. I mean, on Twitter, it was trending that YouTube was down for 30 minutes. So, I mean, a platform that has 2 billion monthly actives, you have hundreds of millions of hours of video watched every minute. You have, I think the stat in 2020 was 500 hours of video uploaded per minute. That's got to be closer to like 1,000 hours of video uploaded per minute. If it goes down, you're going to get a lot of people to care about it. Erwin says mine was still broken this morning. Maybe Google's data centers are taking away some value, some energy from their YouTube at this point. Amit, you like Burnt State, you like Olive Garden, you think Cheesecake Factory is top tier, and you have terrible taste in TV shows and movies. Why would anyone trust your taste in energy drinks? Okay, that's a good point. Not gonna lie, that's a good point. That's fair. But objectively, Celsius did not taste good, bro. It just did not taste good. ASTS, did we get 100? Did we get it? Wow, you got 100 on ASTS. You got a hundo on ASTS. Well, congratulations. I mean, we did a deep dive on this thing at 25. I think it was 30 when we did a deep dive. I did not take the position, but for those that did after that, we had Ann Panman. For those that are in the Space Mob, you guys know him really well. He really laid out the thesis nicely. I think Chris is still in some options on ASTS. $36 billion market cap, $100, 3.8% on the day. Obviously, the street is seeing a lot of potential with their partnerships for broadband distribution of internet, specifically with that Verizon partnership. And that's why it's getting some love. MicroStrategy right there, below 300. Uber now goes red. Hims goes red by about 1%. Tesla's up 0.3, or actually down 0.34. Palantir still holding 1.25% on the day. Is QBTS dumping? D-Wave is down 5%. Okay. A little bit of a dump right there. Shouldn't Grab use their $2 billion for a buyback? No, I really don't think. Dude, 85% of the float is held by institutions. Them buying back stock is not going to really change the dynamics of this company. Also, they're growing. They should be using that to grow. Like, the street gives you a way higher premium on growth than they do for, I mean, Salesforce announced $7 billion of buybacks yesterday, but they're only going to grow 10% for the next 5 years. This is the AI revolution, and Salesforce is only growing 10%. Now, again, I understand they're a much larger company and they can't grow 30, 40, 50%. But Mark Benioff is talking like he's the leader in this AI revolution, and usually the leader tends to grow more than 10%. So if Salesforce could use that $7 billion instead of buying back the stock and actually accelerating growth to maybe 15%, I think the stock would be in the 270s today, because 15% growth from their base would be massive freaking growth, and Street would really be excited. Wall Street loves growth. I think they love growth more than like the buybacks. But, unfortunately, when you can't grow, you end up buying back your stock. And so I would hate it if Grab bought back their stock right here. Now, they did buy $500 million worth of their stock over the past couple of months, but I'd rather them focusing on growth. Nebius, is that green? Nebius is down as well. Okay, so all the data center plays taking a hit today. Yeah, wow. Look at the Bitcoin miners. Bitfarm's down 16%. Goodness gracious. This one taking a nasty hit. Are you seeing a rotation from small caps today? IWM. Yeah, well, IWM finally hit an all-time high after 5 years. So it's natural for this one to take a breather, but that's down. Iran down 7, Cypher down 5, CleanSpark down 8, TeraWolf down 5, Hive down 9, Marathon down 4, Galaxy down 4 as well. Trump will be making an announcement at 3 p.m. from the White House, from the Oval Office. I have no idea what the announcement is, but at 3 p.m. he will be making an announcement. I guess we'll see what happens there. George, thank you for the super chat. Thoughts on Adobe? I really don't love this stock. I think it's cheap, just like Salesforce. And I do think the stock probably goes higher. I don't feel with the advance of Canva and Figma and the fact that Adobe's had a year to show off how AI is changing their business and they really haven't shown anything, that it deserves a lot of capital. Now, is it cheap? Yes. It's definitely cheap. There's no denying that. I don't know. Why would you want to be in Adobe? Like, what is the story of Adobe that's so exciting other than the numbers? And sometimes the numbers aren't the full story, right? So, yeah, I'm personally not that excited about that one. SoFi right there, that's down about 1%. Google still holding the 255s as well. Yeah, again, Bitfarms did dilute. Oh, let's do the red or green poll today. Let's see what you guys think. I didn't think the dilution would be that bad on the stock. All the data centers are down, then dilution definitely doesn't help. All right, green or red on the day? Do we end green? Do we end red? Yeah, BTQ is another quantum company. It's up 13% on the day. I mean, look, guys, I don't have the energy to research a lot of these quantum names. I just don't. Like, if I'm going to spend hard time doing due diligence on companies, I just want it to be on something that's not as speculative as quantum. And that's why I don't deserve the gains if quantum goes to the moon, because I was not the one who did the research. And if you spend all day and all night reading through quantum textbooks, you deserve it when a Rigetti goes to $500 a share. I just don't care enough about it, bro. I really don't. And I feel like buying Google or IBM or Amazon or Microsoft, a lot of these companies can get you some quantum exposure as well. So I think they've run a lot. It's going to be very hard for me to buy into these quantum names, but it just depends on, can they execute against everything they've been talking about. Why is Palantir getting a run right here? Look at that, 184. It's a pretty big green candle. Not sure. I mean, that's the Snowflake partnership we talked about in the morning. But you might just have some buyers coming in. The 190 call for next week got a lot of option flow. So maybe traders are thinking that 190 can get some green. Rare earths, wow, they all went red. Dude, critical metals was up 14% 5 minutes ago. It's down 2%. USAR down 8%. MP down 3%. TMQ down 7%. REMX, which is the Vanguard fund for rare earths, that's down 5.3. And then LAC down 14.5 on the day. Okay, so what's getting smacked today? Rare earth companies and then Bitcoin mining companies turned data centers. All of them a sea of red. Iran now down the worst on the day, 8%. Which, look, I think it's normal for them to take a breather, but nonetheless, they're getting hit. Internationally, what do we've got going on? Greece is down a little bit on the day. Argentina is down a little bit. You got India that's up. You got Brazil that's up. Japan that's up. KWeb, China's down a bit. Poland is up. S&P is up 0.2. Internationally, we're relatively green. Singapore is up. France is up. And Europe in general is up. S&P also up 0.2. AMD down 0.35. Grab down 1. Don't know why Grab's down. I don't think there's any news on Grab. I would just chalk it up to shorts and manipulation. But I mean, Grab's been kind of stuck between 580 and 595 this whole week. So it doesn't look like they're letting them get out of that range right there. Down about 1.07% of the day. Meta, that's down. That's actually up 1%. And then Amazon, that's up 1%. Business Insider says Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, and Google could spend an estimated $320 billion on CapEx, primarily for AI infrastructure this year. I think that would be ahead of some of the estimates that are out there, which would be pretty good. TSM, are we dumping TSM? It's down 1%. Not too crazy. Overall market, though, looks like it's ready to go a little red. Let me look at the heat map right here. S&P barely holding on. I mean, we're kind of green. The Googles, the Broadcoms, the Nvidias are green. Financials are red. Insurance is red. Progressive had a crappy earnings yesterday. I think that's why the other insurance companies are hurting. And then consumer defensives are also red. But it's more flat. Gold continues to go higher. So Bank of America did some research yesterday and said that only 2.4% of investors have an allocation to gold based on like an aggregate survey they did of retail and institutional. I don't own any gold outside of my Robinhood Gold credit card. Let me know in the chat if you own gold. But I mean, I don't think the majority of retail investors own gold. I think they own digital gold or equities. But the fact that gold is up 70% this year and it's still a very small percentage of the average investor's portfolio. I mean, what happens if people start really buying gold? What if that percentage goes from 2.4 to 3.5 over the next year? It would be quite incredible to see what happens to it. Now, maybe that's the top for gold. Maybe that's like too many people jumping in. But I mean, what if that's a form of momentum for gold that only keeps it going higher? Maybe you have a gold ring. I mean, yes, I guess I have a gold ring. So you can say that. I also have a gold necklace as well. But besides that, I don't know any actual gold from a stock market perspective. Goldman Sachs right there. That's at 0.18% down on the day. GLD is the ETF. That's the easiest to buy for gold. 390. That is green. Palantir 184, getting some love right here. Silver, by the way, breaking out as well. By the way, someone, there was this account on Twitter that tweeted a referral link to Costco to buy gold. And if you bought it through their link, they would get like 15%. They then quote tweeted the tweet that they put out. This account has like 200,000 followers, or sorry, 2 million followers. And within 15 minutes, they had sold out the inventory for their referral link. So it's like an account tweets, hey, buy gold using my referral link from Costco. And then 15 minutes later, they're like, yeah, it's sold out. You can't use my referral link anymore. I mean, I was like, goodness gracious, bro. People are just seeing these links and they're like, yep, I'm buying gold. I'm just straight up buying physical gold. It is quite remarkable, the appetite that exists for gold right now. and it doesn't look like it's necessarily slowing down. And then obviously central banks across the world are increasing their gold reserves, including China, which also is helping a lot more. Do we have the housing market data today? Do we have some housing market data? Let's see. Again, government shutdown, so we're not getting tons of data. Oh, yeah, we do. Okay, let me pull this up. We have home builder housing sentiment data right here. Let's bring this up.
For that, we'll turn to Dom Chu. Morning, Dom.
Morning, Carl. Good morning, Sarah. So builder sentiment in the single-family housing market rose 5 points to the level of 37 in October. That's the NAHB Housing Market Index. The street was looking for just a 1-point gain there. Now, October's reading is the highest since April. The builders did cite a slight drop in mortgage rates overall in early October and the actions by the Fed itself. NAHB Chairman Buddy Hughes said, quote, combined with anticipated further easing by the Fed, builders expect a slightly improving sales environment, albeit one in which persistent supply-side cost factors remain a challenge, end quote. Now, of the indices, 3 components, the one measuring future sales expectations shot up by 9 points to 54, crossing that 50-point break-even mark for positivity for the first time since last January. But in a sign of ongoing challenges and issues, builders are citing cutting prices. The builders also noted that with government shutdowns still continuing, the expectation is that September census housing construction data will not be released this week. So we'll keep an eye on the home builder stocks right now, just down fractionally. Sarah, I'll send things back over to you.
Well, this is bullish if sentiment is up 5% month over month for the home builders. Obviously, the housing market is the next one that people think could be an important leg of this economy and of the broader bull market. Lennar right there, slightly up on the day. But yeah, we're not going to get the actual new home starts or houses that were sold until we get the government to reopen. By the way, is Shopify still pumping like it was in the pre-market? Shopify still up 3%. I don't see a headline on Shopify. Maybe got an upgrade, but I don't see anything specific here. But you are getting Shopify to go green. Oklo, yeah, where is that stock? Oklo red, 2.2%. SMR red, slightly, very slightly red. And then Nano Nuclear, that one's also down 5. Okay, so again, the Bitcoin miners still continuing to go down. The rare earth still getting hit. And nuclear also taking a hit. The meme stock ETF is down 4%. Meme stock ETF also now down 4%. All right. You're seeing some, I guess, weakness across the entire board. Where's LEU? Centrus Energy. That stock also basically flat on the day. Quantum's dumping as well, are they? IONQ. Wow, yeah. Okay, so I think today's a reset. D-Wave's down 6. I think today's a reset on a lot of the high flyers, guys. That's what it feels like. Rare earths, quantum, and nuclear, and then Bitcoin miners all down at the same time, and like actually down, not just down 1 or 2%, but down like 7 to 8% on average. That is a reset. That is definitely risk off. However, I think that's a healthy reset. And, you know, I don't want people to lose money, but like at the end of the day, you just don't want a stock market where those types of companies are literally going to the moon every day. And I don't think that has to mean they're structurally now going to get hit, but it's something you got to keep an eye on, because once momentum loses momentum and there's nothing fundamental there, someone's left holding the bag. That tends to happen more often than not. And we've seen that plenty of times. Is this time potentially not exactly the same? I don't know, but we're going to see. We are going to see. Why is Grab down? Again, I think Grab is being just shorted to death right here. There's no fundamental news I can give you for why Grab is down. So I think it's really a question of the shorts. I mean, they've got to put up a Q3 earnings that really gets the shorts to be afraid to short this thing. But the short float has increased by about 10% over the past 2 weeks. So that's kind of my best. I mean, the fact that this thing was 615 yesterday, it's 587 today. I mean, to me, it's just obvious manipulation. It's kind of what we saw with SoFi 3 months ago. But eventually you put up the results and it's hard to be denied. And that's what I think Grab will do, hopefully going into Q3. Tesla right there, 435. That also goes green. ALAB and ANET got hit this week as well. ALAB getting a little bit of a rebound here. I mean, look, I think if you believe in the broader networking ecosystem, ALAB and ANET are massive winners, and you have to really understand them. But I don't think NVIDIA commoditizes their business or Meta commoditizes their business, as some people are saying. But those headlines will definitely take those stocks down a bit more. A lot of put options on Quantum expiring tomorrow. Well, tomorrow is a big options expiration day, robbing it up about 1.3%. I mean, look, these Quantum names, Rigetti had 424,000 options traded yesterday. It was in the top 20 of the most traded stocks in the market. So the fact that a Quantum name gets up there just goes to show what that looks like. Also, the IONQ, what was it, chairman? He cashed out 2 days ago, like really cashed out. He sold, how much did he sell? This is the Peter Chapman. He's one of the affiliates. He sold $65 million worth of stock, 814,000 shares. So yeah, he took some profits. And it's not crazy given how much the stock has run for some people to be able to take some of these profits. NVIDIA right there up 1.2, and then Tesla still flat on the day. 1.7 million in $20 November 2021 calls just hit QS. They're 15% out of the money. QuantumScape is not a quantum company, though. This is a battery company. But I know the name Quantum is in its name. Okay, that's a lot of call option coming for QS. Where's PayPal? Are we getting anything on PayPal? Salesforce finally made a move. PayPal, dude, this thing is still... What is going on with PayPal, bro? This thing is one of the biggest mysteries in the stock market. In 7 years, they're going to buy back the entire float. This thing's going to be done. This thing is going to be done. Like, it'll have to go private or something. It's quite incredible. Ori, thanks for the super chat. And Mick, can you explain the essence of Karp's visit to Seoul? So Palantir has a lot of business in South Korea. And obviously they opened up that merch store. We saw that video in the market close, and that made a lot of sense for, Palantir to expand the international presence of the merch movement. But I'm assuming Karp probably had meetings with a ton of business executives in Seoul. HHI, Hyundai Heavy Industries, that's one of their largest contracts in South Korea. So yeah, it was probably a business trip for Karp, but he made an appearance at the merch opening that they had as well. Shem Pasta, thanks for the super chat. Thoughts on the high institutional ownership in Grab? Could this turn from a positive to negative? No, I don't think any stock with high institutional ownership is ever a negative. Like, institutions are the ones that can actually move a stock. And, you need real big money to move a stock like Grab that has 4 billion shares outstanding. So I think it ends up being really positive, but the earnings growth is going to have to be there as well. George Thomas, thank you for becoming a channel member. Appreciate you being here. And thank you for becoming a channel member. VIX is spiking. Oh boy, are we seeing some red? S&P not fully in the red yet, but it looks like it wants to go red. You're seeing Google lose 255. I'll see if there's any headlines. Oh, Trump and Putin to speak Thursday before Zelensky meeting. Trump and Putin to speak Thursday before, that's from Axios, before the Zelensky meeting. Justice Department to ask grand jury to indict former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton. Wow. Holy crap. Looks like the DOJ might go after Bolton like they went after Comey. Oh my. John Bolton has obviously taken a fundamentally different stance from Trump ever since he left the administration. Okay, so that's a headline. And then you got Trump and Putin to speak Thursday before the Zelensky meeting. I don't know if the Zelensky meeting or the Trump-Putin headline is bearish, but that could be a headline the market's trying to digest. Did he tweet anything? No, I don't have any tweets from Trump. No tweets. Today, no. Thursday. Oh, actually, today is Thursday, right? Trump and Putin. Oh, yeah. Hold on. Zelensky's meeting is next week. So, yeah, Trump and Putin should be speaking today, if that's correct. Today's Thursday. Unless they're talking about next Thursday. But if they're talking about today, then that would be now. Bitcoin miners, little recovery. They're still down for the day. If these guys go green, it would be super bullish for their momentum to continue. Again, you just don't want momentum to fade on these guys. So if an IREN can recover, even break even by the end of the day, that would be bullish. Bitfarms down 13. Marathon down 4%. Nebius back to green. That one getting a little bit of love. CoreWeave was at 140. Nebius at 125.79. CoreWeave back to 140. All right. So, I mean, today's relatively flat on the S&P. Everything else is either, well, I say it's flat, but it looks like it's about to go red. There's that big red candle right there. 60 cents away from going red. But everything else is either red or very slightly green. You don't have any massive green movers today. Nothing I see that outside of Salesforce, ASTS a little bit. BM&R, are we back to 53? BM&R back to 53. That goes red. Grab is down. AMD just slightly goes red. And then Reddit is also down on the day. And then Ethereum back under 4K. Dude, Ethereum, unfortunately, this thing continues to be down 4,000. BM&R is just not going to do too well. Micron was up, that's right, on that upgrade. Well, it's still up 4%. But it was breaking 200 in the pre-markets. Can you explain what would happen to an investor if they went private? Like I held 200 shares since 57. Well, if they go private, you get bought out at whatever the price is for going private. So if PayPal goes private at 75, if you have shares at 57, you get the difference between 75 and 57. And so, yeah, it really depends on whether. No, I don't think they're going to go private. I mean, I'm just kind of joking by saying they can go private, but I mean, if the stock doesn't move for the next 2 years and they keep buying back the stock, there's not going to be that many shares left for the public to invest in. We got some option flow. $232,000 of VIX calls were bought just now. Wow, this call, the strike on these bad boys, holy crap. Strike is 35 for November 2025. This call buyer is expecting the VIX to rise 70% by November 17th. That would definitely not help the bull market if the VIX was at 35 by November 19th. I mean, we're talking about S&P back down to 600 if that happens. Now, they might be hedging because that feels like very, very aggressive assumptions on the VIX. Feels more like a hedge. But you do have some of that option flow. We'll keep an eye on that option flow. If that VIX call continues to get bumped up, it might be a lot more people piling into that. But it could be more of a hedge. It could mean more of a hedge right here. Delta looks like it's 0.2 on this. So far OTM delta as well. That would create a great dip. I mean, that would create, well, yeah, it would be a great dip, but it would also be one of those like dips you cry and buy, dude. Like that's what April was. April was a cry and buy type of dip. Like, I don't care who you are, bro. April was not fun. I don't care how much of the dip you bought. April was not fun, bro. Especially if you're close to retirement, seeing that account get wiped by 30%. We're talking about 30% on the S&P. So individual stocks were more than 30%. That shit's not fun, bro. But look, overall, I think earnings are good, and I don't think it's going to be that easy to get that type of a decline based on these earnings. TSM, that one's still red on the day, and Charles Schwab, again, they crushed earnings. Schwab right there. That is up 1% as well. Amid someone bought 940 calls on Tesla for next September. I'm going to pull up Tesla and see how much open interest are in those 940. I mean, there was a couple of people buying the 840s for 2027 as well. So you got a ton of bullish excitement on Tesla. Chime is down 20%. Really? Whoa. Okay, it's not down 20%. It's down 3%. It's down 20% from IPO, but it's down 3% today. Yeah, Chime's been a crappy IPO. I mean, Tanner did a really good video when Chime went public, and basically he was just like, you're kind of out of your mind buying Chime over SoFi. At the time, SoFi's market cap was less than Chime's market cap to go public. And so I definitely took Tanner's advice there and didn't buy Chime. But yeah, just from a business perspective, this is not as high quality as a SoFi. Dude, the 940 Tesla September 2026 calls, 7,000 open interest. There's a lot of people betting that Tesla's going to more than double by September next year. That's the highest option on the chain that has the most open interest, by the way. All the other ones don't have it. Like, you would think the $500 call has more open interest than the $940 one. Nope. The $500 call has 3,000. The $940 has 7,000. That is wild. He's buying Chime now? Okay, well, I guess Tanner got attracted to the price. When he did his comparison video, he was just like, yeah, this shit is like, if you're buying Chime over SoFi, you've got to be crazy. All right. Well, I guess Tanner pulled a little bit of a taco and he's buying Chime. You know, Tanner DM'd me 2 days ago and he said, I want to pitch you a stock on the channel. He didn't tell me what stock. And I was like, all right, whenever you're ready, let's do it. Maybe it's Chime. Maybe that's the one he wants to pitch. But Chime is down. I mean, is it down 50% from IPO? No, from IPO. I mean, how much is this down? Yeah, it's 50%, bro. It's down 50% since they went public. That's probably why he's more interested. I mean, you get a 50% discount, and also, you know, Tanner loves the financials. That's probably why he wants to take advantage of it. All right, so maybe he pitches it to us, and then we'll get to hear the thesis. Tesla's still flat. Palantir having a great day, up 2.3. Palantir really doing well. Grab getting hit 2%. Google up 1.5. AMD goes back to green. 240. Wow. 241. That would be an all-time high, right? Oh no, it did break an all-time high today. 241. It just touched it. Literally just touched it. 242 today. Resistance. 24,000. 24,000. I did not pitch Tanner on Grab yet. We still got to set it up. I got to do it on his channel. We just didn't get the time to do it yet, but we got to do it. 241 right there on Grab. Bitcoin below 110 is ugly. Bitcoin below 110 is ugly. 110.1 on Mr. Bitcoin. I ran back to 66. All right, that one's recovering a little bit. We're getting I think S&P bounced. She bounced at 665. You can see that right there, 666.70. If we get a move upwards, then we might be going green for the day. We might be going green for the day. ASTS back over 100. All right, maybe this is a little bit of a reversal. It's 1018. Usually this stuff happens closer to 11 after the 1030 slam. ASTS, wow, that one's breaking 101. That one looks like it wants to break 101. 3 cents away. There you go, 101. Goodness gracious, bro. What a freaking move by ASTS. What a freaking move. It was at 36 3 weeks ago. AMD, are we holding up to? Are we holding up to AMD 240? Trying to get there. 240 on AMD. Yeah, Stephen Moran was super bullish yesterday, and he was also very excited about, you know, rates eventually coming down, and you can interpret that as bullish. Bitcoin still 110, Ethereum back below 4,000. But some of these stocks don't even care about rates. I mean, the perception of them is just benefiting off of their ecosystem tailwinds, like in ASTS with space. NVIDIA right there, 182.49. Gold continues to hit an all-time high. Gold prices 4,275. Yeah, we have not broke 4,300 yet, but it looks like she's ready to go up. ENS, okay, where's ENS? I didn't buy this yet. Enersys, goodness, dude, I could have bought at 119 yesterday. It's freaking at 123. I did a deep dive on this. Listen to it, or not a deep dive, but we did a 30-minute sort of overview on this on Twitter. It's recorded. I have not bought it yet. I do think it's cheap. If you're looking for a battery company that's in the energy space that's actually cheap, I think this one is not a horrible look. 10 PE, 1 times price of sales, no debt, profitable, $4.5 billion market cap. So just go to my Twitter. If you scroll down, you'll hear the 30-minute audio recording. And then you can kind of decide if there's any juice there. Micron starting to expand. Look at that. 202 on Micron. Wow. 5.3. Grabs also still down. Palantir is up 2.4 at 184. NVIDIA 1.5. So NVIDIA and Palantir going up. Broadcom should be kind of catching a bid right here. Broadcom 358. That's up 2. And then Oklo going green as well. About to go green. All right, so momentum might be coming back. Momentum might be coming back. Rare earths, they're all still pretty red. They haven't really reversed. And then the Bitcoin data center, Bitfarms was down 18, now it's down 11. So they all kind of move in tandem. Iran was down 8, now it's down 2. They're continuing to show momentum is not really stopping easily for these guys. What do you think Trump will say at 3 p.m.? I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think Trump will say at 3 p.m.? Okay, grab below 580. Okay, I'm buying that dip. I'm buying that. If you go below 580, we're going to buy that. I'm buying. All right, we're doing 1,000 shares. There you go. All right, we added to the stack. 1,000 shares more. They're going to give it to me at a 15 billion enterprise value where 30% growth is coming, 7 billion in cash, then I'll take it. Grab right there, down 2%. Amazon, are we down 1%? Amazon is up 1%, 217. I bought more at 214 and 215 yesterday. So that one's green. And then AMD just below 240. Grab will go to 550. Look, if it does, if it loses all support in the 570s and drops to 550, that's when I will make a much bigger buy. Because again, conviction is there. At that point, you just have to buy the dip on the stock you believe in. But I'd be curious if we actually lose the 570s. I think it's being manipulated, not manipulated to the point where it drops that low. It's possible. But I'd be quite surprised if we actually see it get there. App 11, 609. That's up 1.2%, up from 580. That is green. Rushil said, I might have sold my Amazon to you. Thank you, Rushil, for giving me your Amazon stock that is barely moving. I gladly took it from you. Look, I'm just there's some names where you just buy and you just don't care. You really just don't. And Amazon's a really easy one to just buy and not worry that much about. So I'm not too worried about it. 217 right there on Amazon. ASTS 102. Bro, this shit is crazy. That shit is crazy. ASTS 102. ASTS year to date, what do we got? It's got to be above 100% at this point. Year to date, 372%. It's made its move. It's made its move. Oracle CEO or Oracle, what do you think is going on with that? Oracle making a move, 3%. Look, Oracle got the AMD partnership yesterday, and then the obviously OpenAI move a month ago that helped them. But did I think the stock deserved to be at 350 overnight from 230? Probably not. The fact that it's normalizing 300s is good though. Remember, Oracle tanked because of that stupid information report that said their gross margins are down. It's you have these weird headlines that end up creating some decent opportunities on these names. S&P, look at that, 667, all the way up from 665. Chris shorted Quantum, did he? Did he tweet about it? What did Chris do? Did he actually short Quantum? Oh, he did. He bought a 2x short D-Wave ETF. 2x short D-Wave ETF. 2,000 shares. What is the ticker on this? 2x short D-Wave. QBTZ. QBTZ is what he bought. It's up 9% today as D-Wave's down 5%. Look, bro, I'm not going to lie. I kind of want to buy that as well. But it's these freaking quantum names. You never know, dude. You never freaking know what's going to happen. It's a good hedge, though. I really do think, dude, if you're going into 2026 and you want to protect some gains, the most speculative parts of the market that have no earnings, no revenue, just narratives are quantum and nuclear and a lot. So buying the inverse ETF just as a hedge, like knowing that it will go to zero if the bull market continues, but the rest of your portfolio will do very well, is not a crazy move in my opinion. It's just you want to be directionally tied to a hedge on one ticker. I mean, there's quantum short ETFs you can buy, not just D-Wave specific. But this one is where Chris went specific. So that's what we got. Do the 5X ETF. So we talked about that yesterday. On December 29th, 5X ETFs are going to launch by Volatility Shares. And we're talking about 5X NVIDIA, 5X AMD, 5X Palantir, 5X Bitcoin. Like this shit's going to be crazy, bro. That means if Circle goes down 10%, your ETF goes down 50%. Like, it's going to be pretty wild. It's going to be pretty freaking wild. Doug says, bro wouldn't touch quantum on the way up because he said he didn't understand it, but is salivating to short it. Well, I do think there's a nuance there, right? When some names get to the levels they get at in terms of valuation and hype, I do think taking a short is not crazy. The question becomes, is there something about the business you don't understand that will screw up the short? And that's where I hesitate to short quantum, because maybe there's something about quantum I don't understand that's gonna screw up the short in my face. Now, I don't think Chris is a quantum expert. He's just looking at the valuation and thinking it's stupid. But that's where it could blow up in his face if there's something about quantum that is so important that he doesn't understand the nuances of, and then it blows up. However, if there's not anything there, then these stocks are going to get hit. The question, that's the $1 trillion question. Is there something there that justifies why these stocks trade at what they trade at? Like Palantir is growing at 50%. Hate on the valuation all you want. Palantir is growing at 50% with 60% free cash flow margins. People can hate the valuation. You cannot deny that type of growth. The quantum names, they're not growing at 50%. Let's just say that. They're not doing that. So I feel like that's the nuance when you decide if you want to go short or not. S&P is still holding 660s right here. Celsius still moving, and then ASTS still moving 100.84 on this one. Jose will be on in a couple minutes. We'll get his thoughts on what's going on with semiconductors. He owns Navitas. He owns AMD. He owns NVIDIA. He owns Broadcom. All of those have had a pretty strong day, or a pretty strong 2 weeks, to be honest. So we'll get some of his thoughts on what we got there. Oh, we got an update by Fed Waller. Here's what he is saying about potentially getting some more rate cuts.
But let's go through it. He says the Fed should reduce 25 basis points in October. No question about that. Beyond that, he says he needs to see how you reconcile this issue of strong GDP on the one hand and a soft labor market on the other hand. He said something has to give here, and that's going to determine what he does beyond October. The Fed should avoid rekindling inflationary pressure by moving too quickly. So a bit of caution there. Still concern about inflation by the influential Fed governor, who is one of the top candidates for replacing Chair Powell in the Fed chair position. He says if the labor market softens further and inflation remains in check, the Fed should think about cutting another 100 to 125 basis points down to neutral. That really affirms market pricing down the road of about a 300 or a 3% Fed funds rate.
AKA, he is on the side of the doves and he wants rates to come down. Very similar to what Moran said yesterday. So you got Waller, Moran, Bowman, a lot of these people on the side of getting some more rate cuts. Folks, we got the China response to Greer. We got the China response to Jameson Greer, who's the U.S. trade representative. Here is what they said. Number one, the U.S. interpretation seriously distorts and deliberately exaggerates China's measures, aiming to provoke unwarranted misunderstanding and panic. Number two, the U.S. has long employed extraterritorial jurisdiction dating back several decades. Since 2022, the U.S. has repeatedly imposed semiconductor-related export controls targeting China, abusing globally applicable extraterritorial mechanisms such as the 0% de minimis rule and the foreign direct product rule to coerce other countries into jointly containing and suppressing China. Okay, so China's calling out the U.S. on some of the things they've done. Number three, the U.S. remarks reflect a classic case of judging others by one's own standards and precisely reveal how the U.S. itself has kept overstretching the concept of quote-unquote national security. They're basically saying the U.S. is a hypocrite. And then final thing, the security and stability of global supply chains require the joint effort of all countries, including the United States. Okay, what they're saying right here doesn't feel like they're escalating it dramatically. SoFi, by the way, getting a green candle right there. It seems more so like they're just saying, hey, like the U.S. has also not been the easiest to work with when it comes to export controls, so they shouldn't be calling us out as aggressively as they are. Hopefully that results in some level of negotiation that allows both sides to win after the South Korea meeting. Because if we don't get a deal after South Korea, when they meet in person, when are we getting a deal? It's not going to be at the end of the year. It's going to have to happen in 2026. And that level of uncertainty is definitely not going to be fun for the markets to deal with. But we're going to have to see how this ends up playing out towards the end of the year. Trump should just give them the chips and we should get the magnets. I mean, to be honest, I agree with that. If China's going this crazy because they want the NVIDIA chips, like, I don't know how much more Jensen has to explain the concept of the American tech stack being what we want the world to build on. Let's just give them the chips. Obviously, I'm biased as an NVIDIA shareholder, but like, let's just give them the damn chips, bro. We need the rare earths. We need the magnets. We need the minerals. If all of this is because they want our chips, let's just freaking give it to them. Like, they're going to build their own chips eventually. We would all win from this. Yeah, all of us would win from this. And I don't even think Trump cares that much about the national security stuff. I think he's not giving them the chips because he wants another form of leverage. And if he gives up the chips, maybe he thinks I have no more leverage, which to an extent could be accurate. But regardless, I do think it's important to, have a world in which we can somewhat negotiate on this. So we got to see. We got to see how this plays out. Did BNY have earnings today? BNY Mellon? They're flat on the day. I think they had earnings. We'll get the results if they were flat or not. S&P trying to make a new high of day, 667 right here. They're still holding on. CoreWeave breaking out. CoreWeave 143. That is a bit of a breakout. Nebius is above 127, just above 127. How about Iran? Iran right there, still down on the day, but not as bad as it was before. DoorDash up 3. Nubank, $15. Rivian was at 13 yesterday. Rivian's at 13.27. IBKR still flat. And then Reddit still flat as well. APLD continues to go green. Amit, what calls would you buy on Grab right now? I like the $10 2028 call. Give yourself a lot of time. I do think Grab is above 10 by 2028. So if I'm looking at calls, that's probably the one I like. Just give yourself a lot of time. Give yourself a lot of time. The calls are relatively cheap, even though they're out of the money, and you have years for this to play out. So that is one of the calls that I like. APLD is still moving up. That's green. He can stop the chips going just like they're stopping rare earth. Yeah, and I think that's why he also doesn't want to easily give up those chips. We have a couple other headlines on China. China Commerce Minister says, we hope the U.S. will work with China to find solutions. That's good. That's encouraging to see. And then China Commerce Minister says, we welcome Apple to deepen cooperation with China as well. Tim Cook, I think, went to China a couple weeks ago. So he's continuing to try to make sure that country stays intact with everything they're doing from supply chains. Oh, here's another quote. China Foreign Minister, decoupling is not a realistic or rational option. That's a great quote. That is a great quote. China Foreign Minister, decoupling is not a rational or realistic option. I mean, dude, that is so good to see. You do not want to see the Chinese effectively say, screw you, we're going to do everything ourselves. Because then guess what? Trump has an ego. You know what Trump's going to say? Trump's going to say, screw you, we're going to do everything ourselves. And then you're actually going to have a legit decoupling, which is just like, it's not possible. Like, they need our consumer, we need their labor. But like, the markets would not easily react if we freaking decoupled from one of our biggest partners. Amazon right here up 1% of the day. So that is really nice to see that they're not as animated from an aggressive standpoint to be upset at the US. Okay, so at least that's not horrible to see. Folks, let's talk about semiconductors. We had a lot of news happen in the world of semiconductors over the past couple of weeks, and we have none other than the man who understands semiconductors better than I think most people on the planet, all the way back from Arizona. Jose, what's up?
What's going on, man? How's everything? Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How was the conference and how's your trip?
Pretty good. Conference was good and definitely took the time to also enjoy with the family. So we had fun. Went to Sedona, which was amazing. And then just the part of Arizona that we were in, Scottsdale, was also pretty nice. So pretty fun. And now it sucks because I come back and I feel like everything has happened in the past 3-4 days that my mind is just like blowing up. I feel like I made another vacation.
Well, I'm happy you're back, and we got a lot of questions for you because, as you said, a lot of things have happened. So we're going to start with this. AMD is your second largest position. OpenAI is going to buy 10% of AMD basically for free. AMD stock's up 40% since that deal's announced. 6 gigawatts of data. What was your raw reaction when you saw that news?
I mean, first off, just working with OpenAI is a big deal, right? I mean, obviously it sucks giving up 10% equity, but I kind of felt it like, I don't know if some of us watch Shark Tank, right? If you have a product and the investor takes some equity but can help you sell more and more chips, it's better to have it's better to have 90% of a company in a much bigger company than 100% of a smaller company. So that's how I kind of saw it. And 6 gigawatts is each gigawatt is $20 billion plus of revenue potential for AMD, which is massive. So I think I've always been bullish on AMD. I always saw it as a multi-bagger. I kind of saw more of like a $500-600 billion market opportunity. But I think with this OpenAI deal, it opens up the road, not the guarantee for it to really be a $1 trillion company. That's always been a option, but I think just the path to there became a lot clearer with this OpenAI deal if things go true. And then just yesterday, they also announced a massive deal with Oracle that Oracle is planning on buying 50,000 MI450 GPUs from this, and this is completely different than the OpenAI deal. So you're seeing a lot of excitement for the MI450. So I like the deal. We've seen numerous price target analysts increase, and I one of the first times I believe it's justified. Muted my bro.
Oops, sorry. Do you think there's a world where AMD did not have enough leverage to get this deal, and that's why they had to give up 10% of their company? Is there anything bearish associated with that?
I mean, I would say this deal is definitely a deal that shows you're not number one. Number one doesn't make this type of deal. So it just showcases that AMD is still not the leader in this space, right? I mean, if you're giving up equity, it's because you need to leverage and kind of give it an incentive. So I see that. But on the other end, so I see that risk. I don't know if it's a risk, but that kind of negative take from it. But on the bullish side, one of the biggest issues with these types of data centers are, like we've seen, multi-billion-dollar buildings and just projects. AMD before, I would say AMD obviously has some strength in the market, but to go up to one of their supply chain players and say, hey, look, can you dedicate one supply line just for me? They would be a little bit hesitant because they'll be like, look, we might, but we have NVIDIA who we know has tons of orders. I think with this deal being a little bit more public, the supply chain players are more likely to say, you know what, you AMD, I see you have that order. I'm willing to open up more supply chain lines for you because I can see that you're going to be making deal money out of these products. We're not just going to be putting supply chain lines for nothing. So the bad end, you kind of have to give up 10% equity. The good end, I do think it kind of helps strengthen your name in the supply chain industry, which is something that NVIDIA dominates. If NVIDIA needs a new supply chain line from some of their suppliers, they will gladly open up a new facility or a new supply chain line for them. I think this helps AMD kind of maybe not be in that same level, but at least have some stain in the game right now.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think the whole point of the deal was Lisa Su realizing, like, look, OpenAI doesn't get 10% of our equity until they actually execute on building these data centers. So like there's a pretty massive burden on them to figure out how to deploy all these gigawatts. But if they create value in our company by buying our GPUs and choosing us over an NVIDIA for this allotment of GPUs, then, you know, sharing in the upside of that is not that crazy. And it finally got the stock to pump. I mean, where were you when you saw that 40% move? Because I'm assuming you must have been happy as a shareholder just seeing that.
Yeah, I forgot. Somewhere in Arizona. I think I was done with the conference already. I don't remember actually. I just know I was super excited. The other thing though, I don't know. I feel like many people also miss this. Is it's not just on gigawatt expansion, but it's also on AMD stock price reaction.
Yes.
And the last tranche is $600.
Correct.
$600 right now is still almost a triple bagger from here, right? Where let's say we're at 200, right? Maybe a little bit less, 2.5. But that would make AMD $1 trillion company. So in my opinion, for both OpenAI and AMD to agree to these trenches in prices, it believes that both companies at least have a high probability of believing that AMD can hit $600 in 2030. If not, I would say OpenAI wouldn't agree with this, and maybe AMD wouldn't agree with this. So it at least shows that there's some confidence of at least a $600 price target by 2030.
Navitas partnered with NVIDIA. You like this name? Reaction to this 50% move?
Yeah, so I think last time I came here, I mentioned that I don't own Navitas, but I believe this is going to be a trading account, a trading asset. The main reason is this one really trades on any form of headlines. This past Monday, I think we saw a lot of headlines, including announcements of the increased 800-volt data center progress that's happening. Navitas was bullish on that sentiment, and then I think Monday after hours, they also did their own press release that even created even more sentiment. I'm still going to stay with that statement that as long as great headlines come out for this, Navitas is going to be able to run up. The reason I say it's more of a headline numbers is because a lot of these revenues are still not expected this year, right? So eventually that's going to change, and maybe eventually my discussion would say now this is more of a fundamental move. Right now, I think it's mainly more of just that that excitement on headlines. I do want to give one quick warning. Last earnings, the company didn't share much insight about their NVIDIA partnership. And we did see last earnings, Navitas dropped about double digits. Now with this excitement, earnings season is back up. If we want this momentum to continue, management has to share more insight with what's happening here and more insight of where the potential revenue is coming. Last time they gave us potential revenue, but they gave us potential revenue for 2030. Let's be honest, no one cares what happens in 2030 right now. Right. We care what happens in the next few months. So they need to be able to give that confidence to investors that, look, within the next 2 to 3 quarters, that's when we're going to start to see revenue. If not, I don't want to be that guy, but I could expect maybe a sell-off if they don't share excitement during the earnings call.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I mean, obviously this name has had a lot of people buy into it also off just the pure momentum. So you're right. I mean, I didn't know they didn't give that many details last quarter. So this would be one of those quarters to solidify that they are legit and working with NVIDIA for some really important tasks. But the details there would be pretty damn important. Jose, let's talk about data centers. But before we get to that, guys, Jose's YouTube right here. Please make sure to subscribe if you care about semiconductors at all. If you're invested in semiconductors, you probably should be subscribed to this channel. And then whatthechiphappened.com. This is his newsletter that he puts out a couple times a week for those that like to read things in written form. Please make sure to subscribe to that for his newsletter as well.
Yeah, the newsletter this morning, I just dropped out something. It covered AMD's recent price target hikes. NVIDIA, pretty interesting. It's a really crazy move, but they have a startup company that wants to build data centers in space. So I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but I just included there to include the read. And then yesterday we had ASML earnings, so that was covered. Later today, I might be dropping one either tonight or tomorrow covering TSMC, who also had earnings. TSMC today, ASML yesterday.
Yeah, and we'll talk about TSM and ASML in a second. So if you guys want to get updated on that coverage, I mean, I really would suggest subscribing to What the Chip Happened in his YouTube channel, because it's a lot better coverage than most people on the planet when it comes to these semiconductor names. Okay, let's talk about data centers. So the Bitcoin miners have completely pivoted to become data center companies. You've got a lot of energy stocks that are going green because they want to play a role in the build out of data centers. You have Dougie in the chat who says, should we think about buying Caterpillar because they make a ton of construction equipment that will be pivotal in data centers? And they're creating the picks and shovels. What is your perspective on investing in derivative plays associated with data centers versus just Broadcom, NVIDIA, and AMD itself?
I mean, I think those derivative players, especially the ones under $10 billion, are the ones that give you that trend, that come with some form of, it's not a complete YOLO play because there is some bullish thesis behind them, but it comes with risk. I personally own a few. My number one player is CoreWeave. This is a position I was talking about. I even came when this one was under 100 in this channel, and it was one of my favorites. So CoreWeave is my number one in forms of AI infrastructure. I also own some Nebias. There's another one I own called White Fiber. Many people haven't even heard of this one. So White Fiber is another. I think these are gonna continue to see a bullish trend, but with the
Wait, real quick
warning
before
that
you continue, do you know what do you know what a white Russian is?
I don't know.
Okay, good. Thank you. Because apparently it's an alcoholic drink, and I thought it was a type of macadamia.
Okay, I was gonna say an alcoholic drink, but then my mind was thinking something else. I didn't want to say it. So it's good. I said nothing, but then maybe not as good as as me saying the few words after. But regardless, I think derivatives right now are definitely the excitement in this space.
Are they in a little bit of a bubble, Jose, or you think the
I
demand
think so, and this is probably one of the main reasons. I think I took a step back in my. Let me just say, in my overall portfolio, I've kind of taken a step back. I'm thinking of like buying companies like Amazon and Synopsys right now, companies that are like multi-billion-dollar players already. I don't know.
You're thinking of de-risking a little bit.
Yes, exactly. And I'm not rushing into high-flying names right now. Everything is just seeing so much excitement. I mean, every other day we see these Bitcoin miners go up 6%, 7%, then a 2% drop, and then bought back, the dip gets bought back, and then another 7-8% growth. I have some of those players in my portfolio, but I'm not buying anymore.
It makes you feel uneasy taking.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And that's why lately I haven't even done live streams. I don't know. Just the market it's been too exciting for me that I've decided to even kind of take a step back from just being in front of the computer, because I don't want to react to these crazy reactions. I'd rather just, I don't want to destroy my portfolio. I don't want to destroy my money. So yeah, I've been taking a step back and just been looking either at ETFs or some of the big players instead right now for any new money coming in.
Well, I think it makes sense also because you've made a killing this year off just Nvidia and AMD alone. So if you and CoreWeave, right? If you've been able to beat the S&P off individual stocks, which is not easy to do, and you've done very well, it kind of makes sense to not fly into more risk if you've already been rewarded for a ton of risk.
Yeah, and that's, I'm happy you mentioned that, right? Because my portfolio might be a lot more AI based, so I might feel a little bit different than someone who owns like oil companies or that owns fintech companies or that owns some other type of companies. My portfolio is pretty much AI tech plays, so it's like I wonder if my uneasement is coming from that portfolio allocation. So right now I'm definitely taking a kind of a step back, but at least in the long term, at least for the next 2 years, what we know for sure is power is still limited. And if power is still limited, the possibility of these companies getting a deal from massive players is pretty high. It's not impossible. And it's not, one thing I was listening to a podcast recently, and someone mentioned that when we talk about AI training models, you need these massive data centers. So these like 1-2 gigawatt data centers all in one spot, pretty much.
Yeah.
But for inference, and inference is the biggest market, you can actually have 1 gigawatt of data centers, but not all in one spot. You can have 50 megawatts here, 100 megawatts here. And that's actually pretty exciting for a lot of these Bitcoin miners, because a lot of these Bitcoin miners, they don't have that one massive load. They have, someone's probably going to clip that. They're going to have, they have small powers all over. They have 50 megawatts here. They have 75 megawatts here. They have 100 megawatts. And with the current AI inference market, I can see maybe deals coming through. Now, how much has been priced in? That's always the fun question to try to answer.
Is there any specific Bitcoin miner turn data center that you're long, or just CoreWeave as your play?
So CoreWeave is my biggest position by far in forms of this AI infrastructure. The main reason I like this one is because this one is truly NVIDIA's baby. And I think that's a major asset in my mind when it comes to this play. I have Nebius as another one, but the one that's a complete Bitcoin miner for me is White Fiber. So it's ticker WYFI. And this is actually a spinoff from a Bitcoin miner company called it's BTBT. So I think that's Bitmine. But they mainly do Ethereum. So instead of diverging from their Ethereum mining capabilities, they actually spinned off the AI capability segment. So this is pretty much purely AI player in AI hyperscaling. But again, massive run up. It's done really well for me. So I'm not chasing.
So you're
I'm
not
chasing.
you're not in Iran or Galaxy or Bitfarms or any of those.
I was in Iran and I was in some other Bitcoin miners. I had created like a little mini ETF, but again, as I told you, my uneasement of the market, I started to sell off little bit of all of these. So now the only one I have is this one, and the main reason is I feel like not many people are talking about this one, so the excitement is still there. It's not anything bearish for Iran. Iran is doing pretty good. Nothing bearish for the other ones that I sold. I was just letting go one by one the ones that were rallying up. And I'm just left with that one just now.
Got it. That makes sense. TSM, any thoughts on this earnings? I know you saw it this morning, but in my opinion, it feels like they crushed it.
Definitely crushed it. I mean, if you are an AI investor, the biggest thing is they mentioned that the AI demand continues, and they mentioned it's more the actual call. It's more stronger than we thought 3 months ago. That is insane. For me, TSMC's management is one that says it how it is. If it's bearish, they tell you it's bearish. If it's bullish, they tell you it's bullish. And right now they're telling me it's very, very bullish. So the overall ecosystem is nice. Obviously, we've talked about it. There could be bubbles within this ecosystem, but the overall ecosystem in AI chips is massive. Following that, they increased their compounded annual growth rates for data centers to be about 40% till 2029. That is wild. They increased their capital. I don't know if they increased it, but I know they increased the bottom end of their capital expenditure, which is great for companies in the equipment space like ASML, like Lam Research, and those companies as well. And yeah, I think right now, if you're in the AI space, you're pretty excited still.
Applied Digital, any reaction to their earnings?
That one I did not look at. That one happened last week while I was in vacation. So that one is one I skimmed through really quickly.
Okay. Quick question. Do you know Amcor by any chance?
So I think definitely they do things in the packaging space of semiconductors and not putting the boxes together, kind of putting like the chips together, if I'm correct. I don't follow this one too much, so can't say much out there. But if they are in the advanced packaging market, there's definitely a bullish sentiment for that right now. Advanced packaging is extremely crucial for the future of chips, not just for AI, but everything else.
Okay. And then ASML, I mean, their management seemed a little not as bullish as TSM, but the stock still had a pretty good earnings. What do you think about their quarter as well?
Yeah, I mean, they mentioned some great numbers. They mentioned first that at least they're not going to go down from 2025. They say it's either going to be steady or some growth for the next year, 2026. So that's some, I guess, bullish sentiment. The other thing they mentioned is the type of machines that they're high NA EUV machines are actually being used now by memory players because memory need to use this for HBM. And that's kind of like, I would say for high NA EUV is a new market for them with the memory players. So that's pretty, not high NA, just high EUV for the memory players. The other thing is they are producing new products that are going to deal with the advanced packaging. I forget the actual name of the product, but they're doing good. I mean, this is definitely an exciting stock critical stock for the semiconductor industry. I think as an AI investor, though, I'm more critical about TSMC than ASML. I think ASML is too much in the top supply chain line that it doesn't really impact too much the NVIDIAs and all these other players. TSMC does.
Do you own Micron anymore?
No, I never owned Micron. Been bullish on it, but it's certain. If I would have owned Micron, I think it would have increased my AI chip exposure even more. But that one's ripping. I know it's, I think, over $200 now. Yeah. The demand for memory continues. I mean, OpenAI just announced massive, all deals with everybody, right? Deals with NVIDIA, deals with AMD, and deals with Broadcom. all those players are going to need some form of AI chips. All those AI chips are going to need some form of HBM. So pretty good for Micron right now in the overall market, where it's still supply constrained when it comes to memory space.
How did you feel about the Broadcom deal, which was very similar to OpenAI, but instead of 6 gigawatts, it was 10 gigawatts? And more broadly, all right, let me ask you this. Is some of your uneasiness coming from OpenAI literally being at the heart of almost every one of these deals that we're seeing, Oracle, Broadcom, AMD, and NVIDIA?
So I don't think my uneasement is coming from OpenAI. I think if OpenAI fails, someone else is going to pick up the slack. I think AI is going to be the future, and if OpenAI slacks, either XAI, either Anthropic, someone is going to pick it up. So maybe in short term, you could see volatility if something bad happens to OpenAI. In the long term, the market is going to need those three players. It's going to need, well, definitely NVIDIA and Broadcom. AMD is definitely needed for a competitive space, but my uneasement doesn't come from OpenAI. Now, the thought process of OpenAI being from the streets pretty much and just going with everybody, interesting. It's definitely interesting.
He's for the streets. He's for the streets, bro.
OpenAI having a bigger.
Do not go through OpenAI's Instagram story or Instagram DMs. You'll be disappointed. If you're dating OpenAI, don't go through their DMs, bro.
Be like, I got another 10 gigawatts for you here. Where was I? I mean, Broadcom is definitely number 2 in the AI space right now, right? I mean, every AI player is trying to make their own AI chips. It makes sense that they have 10 gigawatts opposed to the 6 gigawatts for AMD. I would say the CEO of Broadcom was in a recent interview with Jim Cramer on CNBC, and normally, Hock Tan is very competitive against NVIDIA. This is just my thinking, is how I see it. It's not just what you say, but how you say it. That's also really crucial when I listen to leadership. He sounded a little less competitive to NVIDIA during that interview, and I don't see that as a sign of a weakness. I see that this market is so big right now that you're not really competing with too many players. You're just got to do well yourself, and you're going to get plenty of market share. And I don't know why. I actually see a potential future where somehow NVIDIA and Broadcom team up. I don't know why, but that interview itself, Hock Tan is no longer worried about NVIDIA. And that's what I like to see, right? When you're no longer worried about someone else, you're just focusing on yourself. And I think that's what came up from that interview that I really enjoy. I don't own Broadcom, but I really do enjoy the leadership change that I saw during that interview process.
Last 2 questions. SMCI, any excitement for this if GPUs are ramping up as much as they are?
I mean, the excitement is there, right? Data centers are going to need servers. You're going to need to buy servers from everybody.
Dell just increased their revenue projections, right?
Yeah, and Dell, it's a lot of competition in this space. I'm not that excited about it. If I want to continue to increase my exposure into the AI, I'd rather do the Bitcoiner miner way or the AI infrastructure way or an energy play opposed to a server play. Most of my server play is most likely covered with like my chip companies already. So I would rather like to get, like you mentioned, another derivative in that space. And I don't think it would be the rack system. I think it would be another avenue.
All right. So last question for you, Jose. And this is going to be a question that the chat can participate in as well. And I think it'll be a fun question. Again, if you have not subscribed to Jose on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe. He blesses us pretty much every week with some really awesome semiconductor. Now, someone said you're number 1, Dylan Patel's number 2. I would agree. Dude, Jose, you need to start a consulting firm like Dylan Patel and just I mean, you understand this shit really well.
I mean, he's that team is good. It's impressive. I would love to, but I think just the logistics of doing something like that is wild. It's hard.
No.
Yeah, that's not. I don't know Dylan personally, but like semi-analysis is the only real outside of actual industry notes and like other stuff. That is one of the only analysis that I follow in the semiconductor space. There's no one else that it's that, and then just whatever I read from presentations. or press release.
Well, for me, it's you. You are the guy that I look to get this analysis. All right. So given OpenAI is working with NVIDIA, Oracle, AMD, and Broadcom over the past like 2 weeks in terms of announcing these deals, here's the question for you and the question for the chat. Take a second to think before you vote, folks.
Is it going to work with Intel? Oh, no, never mind. Never mind. I thought that was the question. Never mind.
No, if you had to pick one over the next 5 years to hold, which is it? NVIDIA, Broadcom, at these from these prices today, from October 16th today, NVIDIA, Broadcom, AMD, or Oracle, which one do you hold next 5 years?
The one I hold next 5 years for me is NVIDIA. That's the one that I feel has the biggest stability and the biggest success rate. So for me, it's more of thinking of which one's going to keep my money the safest. If I want to be a little not gambler, but if I want to expect my money to have a higher chance of growing, but also a little bit more risk, I would go with AMD as my number 2. So anything else, I wouldn't play. It would be just between those two, and it's those two mindsets. Money keeping, I think NVIDIA is going to continue to dominate. The opportunity to grow faster, a lot faster than the other ones with some success rate, I think AMD. Yeah.
Well, NVIDIA's already $4.5 trillion. I mean, for them to go 3x, it would have to be like 12 trillion. For AMD to go 3x, $1 trillion. So even at that, even from that perspective, you'd be happier with NVIDIA over AMD.
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but NVIDIA, the math doesn't math with the current AI stuff, with the current market that we're in. But 10 trillion, I don't think seems that impossible anymore for NVIDIA. Not next year, not 2 years from now, but in the next 5 years, I could see still double bagging if the AI market continues to evolve as we're seeing right now. I mean, VO3 is insane. Sora 2 is insane. Anthropic just announced Haiku 4.5. They also announced that they're expected to do $9 billion in revenue this year. And by next year, they expect to triple to $26 billion.
Yep.
All these AI, I don't know. The AI market is real. And I think NVIDIA being the number 1, even if it loses market share, it's that market where losing market share doesn't mean you're necessarily going to lose revenue or margins. This market just continues to grow. We saw TSM, 40% compounded annual growth rate in data center till 2029. NVIDIA is going to be a good portion of that.
Yeah, and if they do $11 of EPS in 2027, they're trading at 27 times, which is not expensive. It's just not that expensive. So, all right, Jose, thank you. Deeply, deeply appreciate it. We missed you for the past week, and I think a lot of people benefited from the analysis.
No, thank you. I mean, you woke me up. I felt pretty, I don't know, I felt pretty down. Not down this week because obviously money is up, but it's just so crazy. And just coming here just got me a lot more excited. So I'm about to go back to my computer and just grind it out.
I love it. We appreciate you. Thank you, Jose. We will catch you next week. Later. All right, folks. I think that is it for today as we end out this market open. One last piece of news that just came across my screen. Remember the crypto whale who went short Bitcoin before Trump spoke or before Trump tweeted on Friday? He just went long. So that same blockchain address just went long Bitcoin at 110.8. He went short at 120 on Friday. Covered, made 200 million, went short again at 116 3 days ago. Covered at 112, and now he's going long at 110. So maybe Baron Trump knows that at 3 p.m. in the Oval Office, Trump is going to say something important. But we got a little bit of green, potentially. This is confirmed. Yes, the same blockchain address that went short. That's the cool thing about the transparency of these blockchains. They are now going long. Now, granted, I don't freaking know if this is actually related to Bitcoin or something, or related to what Trump is going to say. But Bitcoin right there, 110.4 is what you got. CZ posted about it. Dude, CZ might get a pardon soon as well. CZ, do you guys know CZ is worth $100 billion? The founder of Binance. I think he's the biggest crypto billionaire that's out there. But yeah, I mean, Binance was part of the reason why there was so much of a liquidation on Friday, but it looks like he might be officially going long. The rare earth stocks still getting hit today. I mean, they were recovering a little bit. CRML is the only one that recovered. The rest of them are still pretty red. Bitcoin miners turn data centers. pretty much all still red on the day, not as red as they were before, but still red. And then the broader S&P holding up 0.29% on the day. That's what we got. All right, that is it for me. I will be back at 3:45. Do we have any earnings after hours? We have IBKR. Outside of that, no earnings today. I think we will have Chris on for Macro Thursday. I'll confirm with Chris, but he should be on today. And we'll get into a bunch of different macro topics. And we'll keep going from there. That's what we got. Word of the day. What do we got? Word of the day. I don't think I've ever heard of this word. Spore? Spore? It's got to be spore. If this shit says spore, I'm going to be pissed off. It's got to be spore.
Spore.
Okay, it's kind of the same. A track or trail, especially that of a wild animal pursued as a game. Okay, I've never heard of this word. But that is what you got. There you go. That's word of the day. Again, S&P 500 right there, 0.29%. Holding on relatively strong. I think a 0.3% day on the S&P would be good. Robinhood up 1.6, Palantir up 1.7. Grab a little recovery from 580 back to 587. AMD holding on, and then the S&P up 0.3, which is not too bad. All right. That is what we got. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'll be back tomorrow. I did put out my first Substack yesterday for those that want to read it. It was just a process on how I do research. So it's called How I Approach My Deep Dives. If anyone wants to read it, feel free to read it. We're going to have 2 deep dives come out tomorrow. So the official ones will be out. So it's a pretty quick read, but I hopefully think it'll outline the 3-step process I have to really looking at a company. And again, for anyone who wants to subscribe, 2 deep dives will be out tomorrow, totally free, no paywall. And we will get it going on the Substack. So there you go. Oh, did I say tomorrow? No, I meant market close. We'll be back here. We'll be back for the market close. We'll be back for the market close. Dude, Steve went live to like 1 o'clock yesterday. Steve is loving being live. He is absolutely loving being live because he just sits there and he talks. And then he sends me pictures of his eggs that he's eating this morning. He's definitely an egg guy. He's a milk and egg guy. He's a milk, egg, cookies, medium rare steak guy. But no, he's loving it. He's loving going live and interacting. And he had a great interview with Tanner yesterday. So, Steve and I are doing something. So Steve and I are going to start doing something on Thursdays. So it's going to be hard for me to make his Saturday streams. So I told him, let's do something on Thursdays. So yeah, Steve and I will probably be starting like a weekly Thursday thing where we'll just chop it up about markets and whatever else, probably around 8:30 every Thursday. So we'll have Chris on. I'll confirm with Chris today, but we should have Chris on for the market close. And then I'll be on with Steve at 8:30. And then we'll be done for today. That's what we got. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you all for joining. I'll be back on the market close. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.